Hey, what's good, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 173. And I didn't ask in the form of a question. I know that it's 173. I got the incomparable Wendy Jones. I got Ashely Clark. Ready, guys? All right,
Ready.
cool. Buckle up, people. The episode starts right now. We're doing a live one, huh? Look at that. Too bad you guys missed the intro with the... What's up, guys? Along with Wendy Jones and Ashely Clark right here. What's up, Ash? I'm Jason DeBase. This is episode 173 of the Option Podcast, and here we go. Now, Wendy, we had a good time on Wednesday, didn't we?
That was fun.
Wasn't it?
Undivided.
Yep, Undivided. Let's get some volume on your mic 3. Ashely, in a gangster move, Ashely joined the podcast last minute, unprepared. I think, Ashely, in light of the fact that a lot of the material you didn't have a chance to go through, we started as early as Monday. So we came in, we kind of hit the ground, or you had to hit the ground running. I thought that was really, really... Right?
It was a good 8:30 a.m. phone call.
Yeah, when she calls and she says, I think this is your show, I'm going to say, okay, let's find a way to make it happen. And that's what we did.
So everything that we take time to prepare or, we put all this thought into, you throw it at this one and she goes, okay, I can do it. Give her 45 minutes and she's got a monologue, she's got an opinion, she's got research. There's nothing you can't throw at her that she won't catch and figure out.
Well, here's the cool thing. Like, this podcast is going to come out like days after episode 1 of called Undivided. That's the name of the new podcast we have. I'm going to give each of us a brief synopsis of what we think it is, and consistent with our mission statement and this and that, and just allows us to give everybody more insight. But the cool thing is there was a time frame we're trying to squeeze all this stuff in. So anything that we were missing that we wanted to say, we could actually say it on this podcast because this comes out after. Mm-hmm. So Wendy, give my audience listening what Undivided's about. What are we about?
I'm really excited about this space, Jay, because you and I have been talking like this for quite a few years on multiple different subjects, all the kind of current events that we love, sports and all that stuff. And the thing about current events is that they're always changing. So you're going to always feel like you're a little bit unprepared because the next story is going to break. You didn't read the 24-hour news cycle. There's no way in our daily lives that we can know everything. But people are afraid now to speak up because they think they need to know everything to say something. That's what good people are out there holding back, not saying what they believe, what they think, what they know from their perspective. And we need more people doing that. And then people who really are throwing stones at glass houses, like they're saying whatever. And I don't know, some people's consciences, like they say things and things are going on in the news. And good people need to have a chance to speak up. And I think we're creating a space where people can chime in without judgment and just use good critical thinking skills and have a really great conversation.
Yeah, Ashely, I think you pretty much share a lot of her sentiments, but is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I would say, just from my own personal experience, I didn't like politics growing up. I recognized it as a popularity contest, a money grab, a power grab. And I honestly didn't pay attention for a lot of my young adulthood. And it was, about 6 to 8 years ago where I started to pay attention and realize that it's important for us to be engaged and informed, and not just on one side of the party lines, but both sides and all sides, so that we can really think critically about some of these, events and situations that we see in not only in our day-to-day lives, but in the world around us.
Yeah, actually, and I share a lot of that with you guys. I think I wrote like my own little paragraph, and I'll just read now. It's just very, very easy. It's basically the podcast that says we will explore hot and button topics in the world of current events, entertainment, Politico, wellness, and tackle these topics from a fresh set of eyes, coming from a place of objectiveness, political homelessness, and critical thinking skills. In a world where people are looking for answers to be fed to them, this is the show where we constantly pose the question. Optimistic that we, along with you guys, the audience and the viewers, that we can answer some of these questions together. So, and that's the thing I kind of liked about this, because we're not coming on this show beating our chest, trying to tell everybody what's right for them. We're not coming on this show, and I actually want to get the split screen of you guys shaking your heads together. That's awesome. We're not on this show telling everybody that we have the answers to all the questions. All we're doing this show, and I think you guys will agree with me. We're doing this show because we want to make sure that the question is asked, right? Like the old saying is, you can't solve the problem unless you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
So I think we can together we can pose these questions that present what we believe what the problems are, and through our viewership I think we're going to have a lot of interactivity, people sending us questions and stuff like that. We can answer all these questions together. And if anyone ever said I had an agenda like this, like the whole volleyball thing, like what's Jason's agenda? He's doing all this out of the kindness of his heart. No one's doing this for nothing. And for a long time I thought I disagreed with that. I'm like, no, I'm from Brooklyn. I do something for nothing all the time. I do something for nothing my whole life. But I think the mistake what people make is they think that these things have to exist on their own. You're either one or the other. And no, yes, I guess I had an agenda, but it doesn't mean that it's not included but limited to not doing something for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're creating a space where people just need to be able to sit back and listen, and then hopefully they will chime in with what they think and we can listen, because I think that's the thing that's been lost in just discourse these days, like the way that people talk to each other. Like it is really not okay out there right now.
No.
It is not okay.
Dude, I love how you said that too. It's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much to learn from each other, and politics is really just a story of perspective. Unless you're getting into some of these topics we're getting into, there's such a disconnect between the regular America and the power structure right now, and I've never felt it bigger than it, and it's really disheartening, because this isn't the way I grew up, and people don't know. I grew up in a very political family. My dad held political office my whole life, from the time I was 7 years old until I was in my 20s, and has run for everything from, he was an assemblyman, California Secretary of State. He ran against Barbara Boxer, got beat, ran for California governor, got beat. But an example of a really good man who had friends on both sides of the aisle, and we would sit around and talk about things, and there was never one right answer. It was a matter of people's perspective. And there was honesty, there was integrity. I'm not seeing that today in the stories that are coming out. And so I like the way that we talk, because we're coming at it from a real grounded American perspective, despite all of the nonsense that's going on out there, and First Amendment attacks and school shootings and all the terrible things we're seeing. But it really comes back to the way that we're all connecting as Americans, because there's so much that's out of our control, but the way we listen to each other really matters.
Yeah, Ashely, I want to stay with Wendy on this one, because age demographic wise, this is an important question. My mom worked for Paul Weiss, right? And I grew up, spending summers at the firm or whatever. The big old Payne Weber building. Paul Weiss has like 19 floors of it. They have 200 partners, a big law firm. Back in the day, there was a certain time period, and I'm not sure where that timeline is, and I'll leave it up to our viewers to decide, the ones who were actually born at this time. In the legal profession, when the case was over, like the district attorney and the defense attorney would have a drink together.
Yeah.
They would discuss the case. They would, and I think a lot of the discussion was strategy, like, what do you think I did wrong in this and that? Or do you, or what do we think the truth is? It's like, sometimes you're like, I have no idea, but it wasn't personal. They would sit and they'd have a drink afterwards. And And I think it's very synonymous with politics. And
Yeah.
this is where I'm getting with this, because the majority of the politicians were attorneys anyway. Like, if you consider who all of our presidents were, I mean, I can't put a percentage number on how many of the people were lawyers, or practiced law. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, how similar was it during your dad's time period? State senator,
Assembly,
where
yeah.
you'd argue on the floor with a lot of rigor and passion. Whether you're defending a narrative, right? Whether you have big business to bow to, and that's who you're fighting for, or maybe you're just a good old fashioned, guy on a local level, just fighting for the people who elected you, constituents. And I said the word election, so that's it for Facebook. So long, Facebook. And off whatever your name is. Who's the owner? What's his name?
Zuckerberg.
You, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
So, nah, dude, you know why, right?
I do know why.
But how much did that mean something back then, and how much did that change? I'm going to give you the floor on that.
Well, from my childhood perspective, it meant a lot, because you knew that nobody was reduced to one label you could put on them. They weren't just a Democrat or a Republican or a liberal or a conservative. They were, the guy that, my dad would talk about fights on the floor, the budget, the budget debates, they'd stay up late into the night fighting with each other, the Willie Brown controlled state assembly. I mean, it was gnarly, but then you'd go to Sacramento and come visit him and go out to dinner and see all of the guys, together, and they'd come over and say hi to your family. The Jim Costas, the Rusty Oreases, they were Democrats. My dad was a Republican. They were all friends. They didn't agree with each other. And that shaped my vision of what politics was. So it goes back to the other thing that I really believe is that, there's all this stuff going on in government and politics, and what we really need to be talking about is roads and construction and education. And yet somehow we've devolved into this, it's just this massive power structure driven by money. And I'm not saying that there weren't lobbyists and all that stuff going on back in the day, but it does seem to have elevated to such a level that we're not even talking about the stuff that we can all agree on anymore. What is the role of government? It is, our education state is in a mess. I don't know how anybody could disagree with that. The mental health crisis is a tragedy. How are we not talking more about that? Because everything else is just a symptom. And then what I'm talking about is it goes back to your kitchen table. Who's coming home at night and having these discussions around their kitchen table? Because that's where the stuff really starts. Mm-hmm. That's where hearts get changed. That's where people learn how to relate to each other. So that's how it all ties back to my childhood. Yeah,
so let's fast forward a little bit. Ashely, of course, a younger demographic. Old by nature, though. I feel like you've seen enough to last 2 lifetimes.
A lot of wisdom.
No doubt.
Definitely an old soul.
Isn't it crazy? Out of this 3-person team, we bow to her as far as things through personal experience. You would have thought between me and Wendy, we have a combined 100 years, right? We go to you. So I want to ask you something. Just on a social level. How many friends do you have in your life? And I'm just going to keep it grounded and we can take off from the ground. How many people in your life? Sorry, I'll get that camera on you. Let's do that. How many people in your life where you have an argument about something you feel strongly about, but at the end of the day, you're still friends? Is that demographic of friends disappearing because of ideological differences?
I would say for the most part, I'm losing friends based on those differences. I've lost some family members as far as social media is concerned as well, especially during COVID, because I was kind of vocal about presenting questions, not necessarily saying one thing is right or wrong, but saying well, if this is that, then why isn't this that way too? But I find with my family especially, we get hot-headed and go after each other quite a bit. But at the end of the day, we still love each other and we can come back grounded and say, okay, I can see where you're coming from based on your life experience and what you've gone through. But this is also my perspective and what I've gone through, and I think that stems from kind of what Wendy said. We used to sit down at the dinner table. Like that was a core memory, I would say, from childhood. And we would sit, and even if dad came home late from work or mom was leaving dinner early to head to work, there was a time where at least all of us siblings were at the table with one parent, if not both. And I couldn't tell you what we talked about, but I think that lays the foundation for being able to have good conversations about things that are going on in your life, your feelings, your emotions, the way you're processing your day or your relationships. But for me, it's just really sad because I find the more conversations you have with people, the more you get into it, the more that you actually can find similarities. And it's the people who are so polarized that you just go like, well, why? Like, you don't have to be stuck in that corner. If you come out of that corner, it's better for everybody if we can work together. I was just thinking as we're talking about Undivided, the purpose is to bring the divisiveness together in that muddy middle. Because really, if you section everybody off into their silos, there's only a few strengths in that silo. You need everybody, all of their differences, to work together in a community or a society, because everyone's going to bring something different to the table.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, has the kitchen table discussions stopped, or has the kitchen table discussion changed? Was there a generation of people that are raising their kids differently? I think Wendy's onto something really, really, really strong, because nobody can disagree that better parenting shapes these better personalities. And there's nobody I don't care about what any scientific study says. I don't care what political ideology you are. I think good parenting. There are exceptions, right? Like I have a kid, my kid's sister needed the army. my kid's sister was literally had oppositional defiance disorder. And for those of you that don't know what that means I'll clean my room unless you tell me to. That's oppositional defiance disorder. And on a cute level, we all like to think we have it, but you don't know what it is until you've seen someone literally fight to go the other way and everything. She was on medication for a while. She was sent to boarding school and all of these things, and at the end of the day, the cure was the army. Just knocks it right out. We got someone that don't want to do it our way. Okay, where you from? New York? They must. Yeah, I can't even imagine. So I think, again, Wendy was on to something where you don't. Like, I'm very strict. It's my way or the highway, but, Kelly provides this healthy balance to save me from myself and to save my kid from me. And now you got two parents that are finding a way to raise this beautiful, beautiful, smart. I won't call her highly intelligent. She's blonde. I think she's going to be dumb, but because there's no way a kid's this good looking, right? And this athletic and everybody gets along with her. She's also going to be smart too.
There is. Yep.
There is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are 8-legged mice on Venus maybe, but I think the point I was trying to get to, Wendy, how much percent, I mean, if we could put a number percentage wise, how much does making sure that these kids' psychological growth from home, the level, as far as level of importance is concerned? It's obvious, but we have to go hard on the pin on this one.
Absolutely. With everything they're up against out there, like, we didn't live in a 24-hour social media news-driven society. Like, these kids, what they are up against, they don't have a time. They don't get to come home and turn things off the way that we did, or the only time that they are, if they're in practice or they're in theater rehearsal, like, those are the things that have kept my kids away from just that constant bombardment from, the dopamine rush of social media and trying to figure things out. If they don't have someone that they can come and talk to and ask questions and feel safe to be imperfect and kind of seeking and figuring things out, they're going to go to Google. And I tell my kids all the time, please come ask me. Come talk to me. Talk to your siblings. Don't go ask Google. Like, please.
Right.
It's not going to work out well. Yeah, and you really do have to slow down enough. And that's one thing I always did with my kids when they were little, is like, when they're little, you squat down and you look in their eyes. You don't talk down to them like this. You get down and you look in their little face, and then they start to relate to you. And then as you grow up, you earn that spot where they're going to come talk to you about the hard stuff, where you're going to be the first call.
Right.
But you earn that as a parent.
I mean, Kelly and Braxton have that
Yeah.
relationship. It's a mini me. I remember I showed you the skiing video.
Yes.
She swerves, and
So
behind her
beautiful.
is this little tiny person doing
It's
the same
cutest
swerve.
video.
She speeds up, and behind her is
Yep.
I mean, it's
But the yin and the
classic
yang-
mini me.
The yin and the yang works, though, Jay.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways. Like, you need that structure and that discipline, and it's hard. It's hard to be hard on your kid.
No.
But that structure is
Well-
really, really important.
And balance in the structure too. You know, I grew up as the oldest of 5 kids in my family, non-denominational Christian house. Dad worked in a construction job, mom worked a night job. So parents were coming in and out of the house. And my mom was very get things done, school, because I was homeschooled. And then dad would come home and it's like, okay, it's time to clean and do stuff. So my life was very structured, and it's taken my adult life for me to learn a little bit more spontaneity and adventure, because my life was always very structured and planned out and outlined. And so for me, I look back and I go, some balance would have been good in that situation. So I didn't have to take my adult life to learn, you know, that it's okay, things don't go the way that you want them to or based on your plan. It's always good to have a plan, but also you don't want to get frustrated and full of anxiety when your
Right.
plan doesn't go the way you
Absolutely.
want to. So, you know, having balance in the way that you parent or the way that you coach even is really important, I think.
Yeah, I remember Chris Rock talking about it was his comedy special, Never Scared. And he says, I look in that little girl's eyes, and I'm thinking my only job is to keep that girl off the pole.
It's like Walker Hayes.
Yeah. Oh
I
God,
mean,
that
think
song.
about what happened in your life.
That song.
Think about what happened in your life where that kid
That-
grows up and she's on the pole, right? It's like, Dad, come spend some time with me. Get away, go away. I'm watching a football game. She's like, I'll show you. that's what he said. That was like his bit, you know.
It's true, though. If you don't pay attention,
Yeah.
don't expect him to come
Well-
calling if you're not paying attention on the
Yeah.
totally boring
But
days.
do you see my message?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're a super mom, all right? You're a mom of 4, and you're a power mom. You got a kid playing volleyball at Stanford, outside hitter. You got a daughter playing for Hector Beach at TCU, who is not the easiest guy to play for, right? So that takes a lot of toughness and personality. You have another kid that's like 6'7" and still growing. You got another one that's in musical theater that's might juggle Juilliard or Marymount, right? So you're a super mom, but that's not what I'm talking about. The reason why I did the whole Chris Rock thing, I'm just trying to tell parents, if you make an effort to keep your kid off the pole, good things can happen from that too. You know, sometimes you just need to at least be a mammal. At least be a mammal. One of his other favorite lines was, go home and take care of your kid before he robs me in 10 years. You know?
Right,
Yeah, great little conversation about parenting. And because I gave her most of the floor in that, is there something you'd like to add to that?
No, I'm not a parent yet. I've just been in
You are a parent.
well,
She's
How many
an
kids?
integral
Tell
part
how
of
many kids do you
parenting.
have? Tell us.
how many kids do I have? Well,
What's the number? How many are on the team?
I have 13 on my club team.
You got 13 kids.
and I
man.
nanny a couple kids part-time, and you know, I help. You know, I was on
Yeah.
call
My
to
kids
pick up
all-
Matthew
Yeah.
yesterday,
Dude,
but he
that
was
is-
sick. So for me, it's just observing and taking notes on things that I feel like work, that I've observed, and things that I don't feel have worked.
Right.
And, you know, when we're talking about being present specifically, I would say the biggest thing right now is taking out the tech. Like, take time with your child. Like, I know on a Friday you've had a long work week and stuff, but sit down and play a game. Sit down, build a puzzle, read a book. A book only takes 10, 15 minutes with a
Yeah.
kid. And when you're reading a book with them before they go to bed, They
I was
go
gonna
to
say,
bed
how about
so
how
much
about just every
easier.
night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
like,
just every night? Yeah.
it and that it's a small piece, but I feel like it would go a long way. And again, this is not based on my personal experience, but when I've read children books, they love me way more than if I just put them in bed and give them a kiss and say, I love you, good night.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And she's right. Like, I
did
mean,
it
if you
for-
could pick a part of the day, the
Same.
easiest part is putting, you're putting them to bed anyway, right? So,
Kate and I read Wonder every night. I told you that. We just open the book and read because we'd already read it through so many times. We would just open it up, read a couple pages. It's the best book. So good. So many good lessons.
so I like the general level of just being just paying attention to your
Yeah.
kids. I think that's the general consensus. We didn't get specifically on anything, and we don't need to, and nor do we need to refer to any child expert about this thing. I think the demographic of people in this panel are qualified to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
One of the things we talked about, or that was on my radar, was Matt Taibbi, like in the Twitter files. If you remember, for the people that are going to watch the episode, if you've already watched it, I think the through line I said was that there, because more stuff kept coming out every week, because it's like hundreds of thousands of emails. So they're doing it in dumps. So every time more stuff comes out every week, and I said something like, if you like drama, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
So, well, but what we didn't talk about was the IRS. Wendy, remember you'd mentioned the IRS showed up at his house the day he was on his way to go to the hearing.
I was trying to stay up on that story because you said you were talking about it, and
Yeah.
I've been, I've paid attention to it because the First Amendment implications are huge
Right.
for what's going on. But like the irony or
crazy.
lack thereof of the IRS showing up on your doorstep.
I'm like,
Talking about
shut
tax
your
returns
mouth.
from 2018 and 2021, and it's 2023. And from what I read, there's no financial. He doesn't owe anything. It's as
No.
if they weren't saying he did something wrong, but
Well,
It's
the
a
letter, I think the letter was his taxes for 2018 were electronically rejected. When he filed, they were electronically accepted.
and
Like,
then
yeah, so it turns out the
Yes,
guy that came
oh.
to his door was wrong or something like that. But I had like 3 different options, like a category I thought the 3 of us can have fun with.
Okay.
And if you guys go on your phone, on your text or whatever, I'd like for all of us to just parody one of those 3. Like I'll do the first one. I'll give you an example and you guys can take the ball and run away with it. Ready?
you go.
So the first one, let's go on camera 4. Just a wellness check. The IRS shows up at his door just to make sure that he's living and breathing. All right, just to make sure everything's okay on the home front. Matt Taibbi, are you okay? Remember the song, Michael Jackson song? Annie, are you okay? Taibbi, are you okay? Are you okay, Taibbi? That's right. Well, listen, he's done everything at the Twitter files testimony except say the word Hillary, right? So you do want to make sure he needs to constantly remind everybody, I'm in good health, I'm not depressed, and I'm not suicidal. All right, I'm not on. So this way, right? He's not found in a closet somewhere with 2 bullets in his head, with his hand ties behind his back, which the police will rule a suicide. Ashley, what's the second one?
Well, yeah, the second one's a visit to let him know that his taxes were fine, but they still have their eye on them. And I actually think that that's the most funny one because, I mean, they would show up at the door and be like, oh, you're fine, but we're still here just to make sure we're here and we're watching.
Should we compliment them on that? Because usually when someone calls you, it's always about something negative. I mean, the whole notion that they showed up to someone's house and said, I want to shake your hand. Great job, electronic filing.
Yeah, but that's just a show. They're really just there to intimidate and make him know that they're still watching, I think.
Yeah. Wendy Jones, the third one.
Number 3, his 2018 and 2021 tax returns were rejected due to identity theft concerns. His taxes
Go ahead, Wendy.
were electronically accepted via an accounting firm, and now, 4 years later, the IRS is telling him it was rejected. 4 years go by, and today they come in with this information.
Isn't that awesome? Now, for the people listening, it's number 3 is the actual truth.
Really?
So yeah.
Yes.
With number 1, look, there's always going to be, when you have these 3 choices, one of them is always going to be ridiculous. I'm ridiculous, so I did the first one. Second one, coming by just to say, hey, making sure you signed your name. Go ahead. And Wendy?
Well, you said ridiculous, and that's the problem, is that the world is getting more and more ridiculous. Like, they want to say that this number 3 is not the truth, or like, oh, it's some random... No, people have common sense. They can see what's going on, and then when they state the obvious, there's like societal gaslighting going on saying, no, that's not it. Like, no, it is, because I have common sense. And I'm watching this go down, and then what is it, Occam's razor? Like, that's the simplest answer is usually the best? That's it. That's it. Don't make me second guess if I'm reading, reputable newspapers and taking in information. However, you do have to do some digging on this stuff these days, because you can read 2 different newspapers. You mean the Washington Examiner and the Washington Post will be talking about the exact same current event. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about an op-ed. I'm talking about an article, like a journalistic article. And it sounds like they're talking about 2 different events.
Yeah.
So that's the world we're living in. So people really do have to keep their critical thinking skills, because I say take in both newspapers. Take in the perspectives. But then if you draw your own conclusion and you feel good about it, don't let somebody else gaslight your common sense.
I also think there's something going on, and Ashely, I'll give you the floor in a minute. There's something going on with, if it goes against your narrative, right? There's this not this old school, but this procedural thing where you go after the person's character, right? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, like if someone who was convicted of smoking marijuana finds a dead body in a trunk, it's like, well, he smoked marijuana 2 years ago, so so the dead body's not there. That's not true. So, and I think what people are missing, like, he was called a so-called journalist. He was saying people saying he was doing it for the money. Remember, Wasserman Schultz is like, you struck it rich or whatever, and this and that. And what people are missing in all of this, whether he's a so-called journalist or not, I mean, he is. He's a real journalist, right? We all know that, right?
Got his book sitting over there.
Yeah. Where is it? Hate Inc. Yep. Hate Inc. It's called Why Today's Media Makes Us Despise One Another. Ooh. Yeah. Then you got, for the picture close-up, you got, Hannity on one end and Rachel Maddow on the other. So that's red and blue. The 2 biggest gangs in America, Crips and Republicans. But whether... you think he's a so-called journalist, and that's and he is a journalist, right? He's a real journalist. He's won two awards for his work in journalism. Whether you think he's doing it for the money, and I think he wasn't, but even if he was, you don't go down the street and see journalists with a cardboard sign saying we'll work for food. No, they get paid for their work. So ask yourself the common denominator. Always, like you said, your critical thinking skills have to start from the common denominator. And the common denominator is not are the emails true?
Yes.
Or is it true? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think that's where we collectively as a society can do a better job at our critical thinking skills. Mm-hmm. First of all, is what they're saying is true. Yes. You know? Yeah. Think about police brutality, right? That's politically divided, right? When someone leans on someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, right? You have a demographic of people that are trained to ask themselves, what was this guy's past history? Mm-hmm. Right? And maybe everything about his past history is true. And because of that, they'll make this connection that this cop knows that guy's past when he sees it, which is just ridiculous. But at the same time, no one takes into consideration the cop's past history.
No, and that's such a
I mean, you're like, right. well, what did we find here?
You know how many cops we have walking around out there with PTSD?
Yeah.
I mean, they do take
their their history is sealed.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if you watch the videos, which are very difficult to watch from Nashville, you see heroic. I mean, you see the effect of people who are true heroes going in and saving lives in short order.
Right. Yep, I agree.
That's what you and so when we sit here and demonize an entire police force across this country because of some bad cops, we're putting all of our lives at risk. We need these people. We also need the internal affairs of police agencies, like police departments across the country, to hold bad cops accountable. And oftentimes that doesn't happen.
And but that can you see that's where the meeting in the middle comes from, Wendy?
Yeah.
Are some of these cops being held into account? They're
Bad cops should be held accountable.
Look, I mean, when you're a cop, half the time you go after someone who probably did it, and your life's in danger all the time. So I mean, I'm gonna defend them in this instance as well. And you have to make these split decision things, and if you don't make the right decision, it can cost the life of the person you're dealing with, or maybe even your own life, right? So we're not trying to say the job is easy. We're just trying to say that we want better training for these situations, because the military, like a soldier in the Army, can de-escalate a situation better than some of these cops right now. And they're in a situation where you're supposed to get shot at.
That's something we've learned with the amount of veterans and first responders that we've talked to through my podcast, and just some of the work that we're doing at Be Better, is the difference between military training and first responder training. Very, very different. I've talked to some military men that have come out and wanted to be first responders, and that transition of the way that you handle de-escalation, handle stressful situations, very different in the military than it is in the first responder training.
Right.
And that's hard to, it's Ashely, a hard transition.
And what I'm thinking about is like the parallel between when we're talking about, the shooter from Nashville or anybody else, when there's signs that somebody needs help, or maybe there's a coworker cop that seems a little off. Maybe it's PTSD. Maybe it's something going on at their home. But it's the responsibility of the people in charge to throw a yellow or a red flag and go, okay, what are we going to do to make sure that this person is not a liability to the community, to our department, to others, right?
And then gets the help that they need.
Right. So for me, it's like, it's in the middle, and everybody needs better training and awareness and understanding, but also like their lives are on the line every single day. So I would rather them, or anybody in that position of power, to err on the side of caution, right? Now, holding somebody down on their neck, like, why can't you just put somebody in handcuffs and sit them there sit them in the back of the car and leave them alone?
I would even get that argument if the cop was alone and needed backup. The situations we've seen, there are 5 other cops standing there watching. If you remember the Eric Garner situation in Staten Island, New York, And as a New Yorker, I got to echo Dave Chappelle's sentiments when I say, yuck. Staten Island is one of the worst places I've ever been on, and the only thing to come good out of there is the Wu-Tang Clan. All right, so Shaolin. It is just this. It used to be a landfill or something like that, and then they made it an island or something like that. It's just a desolate. It's like Lubbock, Texas, the Lubbock, Texas of New York. You feel so bad about being there. You don't want to. If you want to die, you don't have someone else bury you. You like dig your own hole. You lay in the thing and you throw the dirt on yourself until you just asphyxiate. So, but I think the point I was trying to make was, right, 6 people standing there chilling, right? We had a great. Only touched the tip of the head of mental health, and how like mental health is the common denominator of like basically I think everything what's remaining we're going to talk about on this podcast. We can go all the way back to mental health, and I wanted Ashely to take the reins on this one. Ashely, I want your opinion on, since we're talking about police, and I want you to talk a little bit about better training and mental health, not as separate entities, not as a false dichotomy, but kind of as a binary thing that you know that can help maybe just police do better policing, because we don't want to sound like we're here against the police. We're not against police. We're not anti-police. No one at this table is defund the police. That's a ridiculous concept. Until someone breaks in your house, what you gonna do, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, damn. I mean, women don't even want a man who's sensitive when someone breaks into your house. How many? Look. Do you want a man with sensitivity? Yeah, sure. Ashely, you want a man with sensitivity?
Sure.
Yeah. Think about it. You laying in bed one night, someone breaks in the house. Your man's sensitive. You both get your whooped.
I don't want to be sensitive in that moment.
No. You need a man with sensitivity. A man like me. Get out of here. Yeah. So Ash, talk a little bit about, because we had a great conversation about just mental health in general, but I'm going to challenge you here on that critical thinking. Good training, mental health, binary. The floor is yours.
Well, first and foremost, I don't think that sitting in a seminar and being talked at is the most ideal form of training. Any training I've had, even active shooter training at a junior college I coached at in Iowa, you sit there and you get given the acronym for what you're supposed to remember and then what you're supposed to do. And it's like, okay, or even just reviewing the film and I'm watching them move through the halls. For me, it's more about people, understanding of people, right? And the psychology behind catastrophic events, mental health symptoms, and how you can identify certain things that people say, do, or how they react in situations. Those are the things that our law enforcement, I think, and really everybody needs to be paying attention to, is those small things. And it's, you could get into the trap of it being a stereotype or a microaggression or anything that's negative. But when you're looking at it from an objective lens, that like I'm trying to keep myself, that person, and everybody else safe, again, I would rather err on the side of caution. The side that's like, okay, that person seems a little bit off today, so maybe I'm going to go have a conversation and gauge based on a conversation if they're with it or if they're kind of out to lunch. Or I'm going to watch how they interact. For an example, I was taking a walk with somebody, with a little girl the other day. We were walking to go get some Jamba Juice and walk home. And we were walking on one side of the road. And I look up about 100 yards and there's, I think, a homeless man walking down towards us. So I was like, okay, we're going to cross the street and we're going to walk on the other side of the street so that we maintain our space and not have to walk next to this person. Now, that person maybe not was homeless, maybe would have been nice and said hi, maybe could have been not so nice and put us in a dangerous position. So I took the responsibility and the safety of this child across the street, and I use it as a learning tool. Like, okay, we're not going to walk next to a stranger. We're going to take ourselves out of the situation and we're going to walk away. And I'm going to teach her these are the things that you look for, or these are the ways you can keep yourself safe in situations. And I just don't think enough, I don't think enough of that's being taught. It's not being an important aspect of what we're learning.
Do you think the way that someone goes about that attracts more attention, though?
Sometimes.
To the person? Yeah.
It could. That person could have looked at us and been like, oh, they're moving away. But it was just like, would you rather be judged for moving away and being scared or be stuck in a position where you're getting abducted or harassed?
Well, one, you were taking care of a child, so that wasn't
that's
your child.
yeah.
So that's there are always everything. Different variables, but like that is something like there's everything that Ashely's saying, and I agree with that, taking control of your own safety and paying attention. I read the what is it, The Gift of Fear, that you told me to learning to trust your instincts if something doesn't feel right. But there's also the compassion piece with the place that we are in the world. And if you're walking around in this community, you'll walk into Starbucks and you'll see a homeless guy. When you look in people's eyes, everybody needs someone to look in their eyes. Like, if you do feel safe, you don't know what mark and how you could help someone's day. I think so often these days we also can look away from what we don't want to see. And if you can be safe and still make that human connection. I do that all the time in places where I feel safe. Now, you do have to trust your instincts. You know, as a woman, if you have a child with you, like, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm having to defend myself. But, I mean, I would if I had to. But the human connection that we're missing out there because of the dysregulation in the world, our collective nervous system, if you want to get into to mental health and psychology, it's really how we're all feeling as Americans and how we tolerate the stresses that are out there. Like, we're really
I'm glad I'm having this conversation with two women, because as a guy I kind of feel differently about it, but you're talking about being a woman, right? And you also reiterated around like Ashely was talking about having a kid, right? Yeah. You know, I mean, that which trumps everything. You know, forget what everybody's feelings are. You know,
I would add, to go back to law enforcement, you know, I would need to know a little bit more about what their training entails to have an idea of what my opinion would be on to improve it.
Yeah.
You know, but for an example, you know, in 2020, I remember seeing an article that talked about LA County Sheriff or LA County Police Department taking away the sexual assault crime unit. And to me, when you're talking about defunding the police and a place like LA, as a female, when I read that, like, I mean, even just now, like, I can feel my heart rate start to race, because that's an important crimes unit. And by no means do I feel afraid as I walk around in my day-to-day life normally. Like, even with that situation, I wasn't afraid because I knew I had the awareness and the tools to deal with the situation if it came. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about law enforcement and their training, you know, I want to know more about what they do. You know, we just had a podcast guest on What I Meant to Say this week, who was a former first responder. And he says there are no health like requirements for first responders.
Yeah. They don't have a physical, like,
they don't have a physical test.
Jeez.
What? So when you're looking at the cops out there, and most of them are not in the best shape that they're going to go chase a perpetrator, that worries me too. Like, we're not even just talking about your emotional and mental capability of handling a situation. What about your physical ability?
Yeah.
I remember growing up, because I grew up on a dead-end street in Brooklyn, New York, right? And I remember seeing like a police chase, right? So they're chasing this black dude. He's like 6'1", 6'2", right? And he runs onto the dead end street. And when he runs into it, he realizes there's nowhere to go, but there's a gate. There's like a gate, like 5.5, almost 6 feet high, right? Mm-hmm. And he sees the gate. He gets a running start, jumps, just only needs a one-hand assist. He's over it. He's gone. And then the male cop, there's a male cop that sees him jump, and he sees, and he's running towards the gate, one hand, boom, gets over it, whatever. And then like 10 seconds later, this short cop, female, I'm not teasing because she's a woman, I'm just talking about size, kind of wide, you know, wiggling. She goes to the gate, she does this, takes out her flashlight, just starts looking. You know, so yeah, we are talking about size and shape. We are talking about mental training. We're also talking about physical preparation, because I think a cop that thinks someone's more physically stronger is more might be quicker to pull his weapon, right? I mean, you need to be the dominant person in the situation where they have to obey those orders and this and that. So I want to stay with the cop thing, but I want to go back to the woman and man thing. I think Chappelle said this best: empathy is bisexual. It has to work both ways. Mm-hmm. Like you were talking about walking on the other end of the street and this and that. So I'll tell you a cool story, right? So I'm walking down the street. There's a woman. She sees me, right, when she's walking, and what she does, she takes her jacket and she covers her boobs when she walks by. So. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, I took my jacket and I just covered mine too. I'm like, fine, bitch, you don't get to see mine either, you know? So, but it was one of those situations where if I were just a little bit more understanding that, so I'm giving you both ends. Like me, I wouldn't have even noticed her if she didn't do that. she walked with her head down and she did this and covered her, so I don't look at her
That
breasts,
has
right?
way more to do with her story than yours.
But that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
trauma.
Yeah.
But I want you, because I'm a man and I'm in a room with two women. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying on the other end, it's not something I would even notice if she didn't do that. But on your end, and I'm thinking as far as righteousness is concerned, if there is a right and wrong in this conversation, I got to be more empathetic. She's doing that probably because, there's some guys out there that are undressing her with his eyes and all that stuff and this and that. So, in fact, I had a video I want to put up. It's called this woman walking 10 hours in New York City as a woman. It's a street. It's like the street harassment thing.
Interesting.
So DJ spin that stuff. Let's get it going. So this is a girl who's walking down the street. Now, this video is heavily doctored. I'll tell you the problems I have with it, but
Okay.
I don't want it to get past the broader point.
That's not good. Wow. What's up, beautiful? Have a good day. Hey, what's up, girl? How you doing? Somebody's acknowledging you for being beautiful. She's an angry girl. Oh, bless you. Hey, baby. Hey, beautiful. How are you this morning?
Have a nice evening. God bless. Sexy American Eagle. Hello, good morning. God bless you. Have a good day, all right?
This one just walking. This dude's just walking.
That's funny. Well, and you know
Yeah,
what?
that
He looked like
feels-
he looked like he's trying to sport her. You know what I'm saying? All right. So sporting someone is when you have a girlfriend or you have a date and she's really really good looking and you want your friends to know you have someone good looking. So we have this term called you could sport her. Like, what do you think of his girlfriend? Oh, you could sport her. So that's just me thinking like a dumb guy. But you wanted to say something first because I already got a
Go
mental
for it.
note.
You
Well,
go.
what you saw there, she wasn't even in what you would call provocative clothing. Like, she was not in clothing to draw any attention to her. And if that's the response that she's getting without looking at them, without, wearing anything that's showing anything off.
She's wearing black.
She's wearing black. Like, she looks to me like she's trying not to get attention, and yet that's all she's getting, which might be an issue in itself, but that's what I see there. So when you're talking about men and the way that they feel like they can just say whatever they want to say whenever they want to say it, it's very, it's an objectification of women, at the most simplistic
I
level.
mean, that's more sexualizing, though. Like, objectification, we covet what we see every day, and if you covet something, you're objectifying it. The words are kissing cousins. They're not strange
True.
bedfellows. So, but that goes beyond objectification. Hey, mommy. Hey, this. Hey, that. There's a innuendo. There's a sexual innuendo.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
coming with that.
there were different statements, and I was gonna say, like, I am very big on connecting with people, and I think New York is an interesting city because it's very, very different than LA, which is, to me, not even the friendliest place. But New York, people do not. I had lunch with a Broadway producer the other day, and he goes, I love LA. He goes, you can come to LA, and you sit down at the bars, like, single guy, didn't come in with any friends, doesn't know anybody, people start talking to you. He goes, that doesn't happen in New York. So that vibe that happens on a New York street, I think I think you're going to get a different feel in a lot of different cities. And she didn't want the attention. Mm-hmm. But there are also some of those things that were said were not terrible. Have a good day. Have a good evening. Like, I'd be like, hey, thanks, you too. Keep moving. Right? Like, what energy you put out, you're going to get back. But if you as a female when you don't feel safe.
Right.
I wouldn't feel safe with that guy walking next to me for 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. Or
Well, her hot
some
read
of
is
those-
her hot read is that person saying, "Hey, how you doing? Have a nice day." Does he do that to everybody? Does it just see me and do that? Right? Mm-hmm. Is there a sense of egoism that knows that she's good looking and knows that people are treating her different because of that? That's the curtain behind the curtain that no one wants to talk about. But that's a real question.
Well, but I also, not to skirt your question, but I also don't think that should, like, if you are confident in who you are and you are confident in what you're wearing and what you're doing, then you shouldn't be bothered by the way that people, like a passerby, speaks to you. Like, yeah, you can say it was rude or it was unwanted or whatever, but really, like, you can keep walking, and that 2-second interaction does not need to be something that you remember or something that affects your mentality and the way that you approach the rest of your day, right? So that's where, like, separating yourself, knowing who you are and, you know, what you're putting out there to the world, having confidence and being grounded in that versus being affected by, you know, those were all men, I think, but you know, there could have been a girl that said something to her too, and you know,
that's one of the many problems I have with the video, right?
Yeah.
Think about this, right? There wasn't one girl that said that, right? Here's an even bigger problem. Every single person, and this is how I know this is heavily edited. Every single person that I guess the word catcalled, there's the term they're using, were Black and Latino. She all right, she worked through parts of Harlem, she walked through parts of whatever, but you've been in New York, all right? We walked in the Upper West Side, we walked in Midtown, she was near Times Square, and you're trying to tell me you walked through all of these places diverse as New York City, and only Black and Latino people were doing that, and no white people did that.
Yeah, not true.
Yeah, you're gonna have to miss me on that one. So I have a lot of problems with the video, but I think the reason why I showed the video is because there's a message that's saying that, guys, if a girl's ignoring you, you gotta have some empathy.
Yeah, leave them alone.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and this is why
just be okay getting shot down. Honestly, we also are living in a world where people don't approach each other, where people don't say what they mean to say. I don't think men ask women out the way that they used to. I think a lot of women want to ask men out. Like, there's a whole different changing dichotomy of the way that men and women relate to each other.
Right.
And I just want people to say what they, like, what's your intention? Say what you mean. Ask me a question and be okay getting shot down or letting this be the greatest thing that ever happened to you or somewhere in between. All right?
Preach.
Yeah.
I mean... Yeah.
No, but I think the reason why I did this and how it even minutely relates to the whole police thing. Police have to know maybe someone's having a bad day, you know?
Oh.
Like if they pull someone over and someone's like, "What the F you sweating me for, officer?" I'm just like, all right, there's a guy who's having a bad day.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have a problem with the way the media is you got two different media outlets taking completely one side or the other. They are not doing, there's not enough videos out there that are showing a situation where they could have been both people's fault and situations where it's nobody's fault. Like there was one situation where a guy, I think, called the police. I'm not sure for the reason he was lost. He didn't know where he was, and the cops came and the cops were like, "All right, why don't you stand up against the wall?" And he's like, "No, I don't trust you. I don't want to stand up against the wall. I'm not in the sunlight. I'm in the shade. I don't, you know." And the cop actually said, "All right, cool. Maybe just have a seat over there on the curb. Is that okay?" And then the guy, the cop is just trying to say, "All right, maybe being against the wall is demeaning, me acting like, like I'm escalating the situation." He's like, "Well, just have a seat over there. I'll sit with you. Let's have a conversation, Then the guy sat and then just got up and ran in the street. And then the cop changed modes and said, "All right, get on the ground, right?" So they showed the complete video, but if you only saw the end of the video, you would have thought it was just some cop like hopped up on stairs, get on the ground. But what happened was the guy went into the street in traffic where he was endangering himself, and now the cop who's following him, right? It's like, and I don't know where it was, but it felt like, like California, these little mini freeways where these guys are just driving like idiots in 35-mile-an-hour traffic. It looked like a situation where I don't know if it was a danger to him or the cop, but it could have been, And I'm side with the cop on this because I saw the whole video and I saw the behavior of de-escalation first.
Yeah.
But if you only show the end of that video, it's viral.
Right.
And it's more defund the police.
And that's the world we're living in.
I'll tell one. Can I tell one more
edits.
story and I give you the situation? Last year, right after George Floyd, a month later, there was a girl who was in a an assault situation, called the police. And what happened was she wrested the knife from her assailant. She was getting jumped. Basically, it was this teenage girl getting jumped by 3 girls. And she took the knife from the assailant. When she took the knife from the assailant, the cops came. And the cops said, please put down the knife. Please put down the knife, right? And the other girl was still trying to hit her. So she raised the knife. And the cop said, put down the knife. And in mid-swing, the cop shot her. And she died. And he ended up, the end result is he shot the wrong person. He shot the person that called the cops. But the situation of him taking it as far as he can go before he pulled the trigger. This is not a brutality case. This is not a BLM case. This is not, I recognize a criminal when I see one. This is a guy that saw a woman with a weapon. Please put it down. Almost begging her to put it down, right? She raises the weapon. He says, put the weapon down. She's in mid-swing. He pulls the trigger. Saves the girl who actually wound up being the assailant. So there was no good result for everything. And I know it's not the time to ask how the cop feels because someone's family member just died. But this guy, who's ex-military, that's how he was taught. That was how he was taught to de-escalate a situation. I'm going to take a poll here. What could that cop have done in that situation that would have made it different? Not shoot and let her stab the girl. That's the other choice. What else is there?
She was going to stab the girl?
Well, what happened was, here's the thing. She was getting jumped by 3 girls. One of the girls had a knife.
Right.
And when the cops came, she wrested the knife from one of her 3 assailants.
Right.
The cops saw the girl with the knife, thought she was the assailant.
Right.
And it turns out it was the girl that called the cops. And the cops were telling her to put down the knife, but to defend herself, maybe to defend herself, or maybe just to attack her assailants with the knife that she took from them.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen the size or scope of these the women.
But I drew a pretty good picture.
I would very much hope. To me, I don't think that a male cop coming at 3 females fighting with 1 knife should result in somebody getting shot.
Right.
That's
okay.
Good. I want a cop who can de-escalate that situation without killing someone, because you should be. In the end.
You should be trained enough to not... You should be trained...
Unless
they actually have a gun like yours.
Have you ever seen jiu-jitsu people? Have you ever seen the way that people can... There are a lot of ways to de-escalate a situation without shooting someone.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, that's a great answer. And Ashley's right. That comes with your training.
Well, yeah, my question is, can the cop not see clearly who was the one getting... even though the victim was holding the knife at the time of arrival... Could he not see that she was beaten?
It's weird because when you're in a situation, you see 4 girls, everyone just swinging at each other. Yeah. And if you take 10 more seconds, you'll see a clear 3-on-1, right? You'll see a clear 3-on-1. So that's a great question. And
I just wonder too, if that's the only person with an actual object or a weapon. In that moment, they are the biggest threat, right? You can de-escalate someone throwing punches, but if someone's got a knife, they can knife you before you get a chance, unless you have appropriate training. So, which is I think
what Wendy was alluding to.
I would like to see them not have shot somebody, but also, anybody could have lost their life at that point.
Right.
It could have been any of those 5 people, including the cop.
Well, I think now we're on to something even more acute, a better training, right? We will talk about mental health every single episode if we have to for Undivided, but training is a big deal.
Training doesn't just come down to physical training, though.
No.
Training comes down to what type of human being are you bringing in to do this job?
Right.
What is the state of their nervous system? How do they process really stressful situations? You see differences in people who can handle high levels of stress and people who crumble. Mm-hmm. How are we reading that? Because I've worked with mentors that work with these people, and we seem to be doing it on the backside of trauma, and we should be doing it on the front side of trauma. Well, what is it?
It's Sean Ledig.
Hi, Sean.
Learn jiu-jitsu or be better trained. Yeah, I was just going to go there, Mr.
There
Ledig.
We go. I just said that.
Well, and
but you were talking about jiu-jitsu training, right?
No, she was. But
okay, but go ahead,
the other big issue I want to pull out of here is what you said about watching till the end of the clip. Okay, so we have a huge mental health crisis. The other thing is that, and I know this now from a year and a half experience of editing and producing content now. You can clip things to make people look almost any way that you want them to at this point.
Yep.
So with that knowledge, okay, no matter, we go back to politics, each side of the aisle, it doesn't matter. If you're not watching everything and trying to ask yourself questions with a fine-tooth comb, then you're out to lunch and you're missing the boat, because everything that's on our TVs, everything in our social media, all of it is all curated in a certain way based on your clicks, the time spent on a post, everything. It's curated to make you think a certain way that whoever has the power, I'm not going to say who I think it is, but whoever has the power wants you to make it a certain thought process in your brain. So to me, that's the two biggest issues, is the mental health and the censoring or curving content to drive whatever narrative it is. And that's my biggest problem, is people, like, you see the news, a lot of people out there making their own reels now and social media content. Like, you know what it takes to edit something. You know when something looks like it's been edited or not. Pay attention and ask questions.
Dude, I mean, now you got AI that actually
It's
can literally
scary.
put words in
It is
Wendy's
scary.
mouth and make it look like she's saying something
Or
that
walking
she's not
somewhere, or you've been somewhere you haven't. It's like
Yeah.
I don't even want my mind to go there.
Right?
But I want my
Scary.
mind to go back to the jiu-jitsu training you were talking about. And it's great because we got,
Rashawn.
I mean, it's so, the timing is everything, because we got a jiu-jitsu master listening to this podcast right now live. We're doing a live version. And Sean Ledig, welcome. Of course, type whatever you want.
It
We'll
should
put it
be,
in.
I know.
But
we need a live.
let's just put it this way. You don't have to go back to the first episode of UFC to understand. Sometimes it's just about the person in the training. Like Hoist Gracie, bringing everybody up to what mixed martial arts I'm talking about. Guy weighs about 170 pounds. There were no weight classes in this tournament because the UFC was a tournament. There weren't just one, like events. So this man in the semifinals beat someone who was 240 pounds, beat someone who was like 230. All because he knew a certain martial art called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The manipulation of someone's body, understanding how the body works, understanding what your limitations are, and working. And
how
like
to
Hoist
keep-
Gracie wasn't a cop. He's not a cop,
Wait,
huh?
and how to keep your mind calm
Yes.
while you're doing it.
Now, here's a little history lesson about Los Angeles Police Department, right? I don't know about NYPD. When chokeholds were legal, they had specialists. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu didn't really hit the United States hard until 93. But in the 80s, Rafael Elwanger. But in the 80s, they were teaching people to de-escalate by just putting people to sleep. So the reason why chokeholds were banned is because, I'll give you examples of two kinds of chokeholds, right? There's a rear naked choke, which is like a WWF sleeper hold. That's what it looks like, right? This goes below your chin. This comes here. They press your head over here. It presses the carotid artery, cuts off the blood flow to the brain. You take this uncomfortable nap, but everybody's okay. And the other kind of chokehold is your forearms across someone's windpipe, where you can exhale, but you can't take air back in. Which is, anyone that saw the Eric Garner video that was saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. When he said, I can't breathe, none of those times were
breathing out.
inhales.
Right.
But not breathing
out.
in.
Yeah.
So that's an asphyxiation that can cause some kind of brain damage and even kill you. So they got rid of chokeholds because of that, because they considered it inhumane, humiliating to the suspect. And then police had to resort to billy clubs. And now you have permanent injury because someone's using a police stick, because chokeholds are banned, which is what we saw in Rodney King. We saw a guy who wouldn't stop moving, and the cops, out of some adrenaline or fear, and in some cases, someone would say hatred, just literally beat a guy to death, or almost beat him to death, right? Rodney King lived through that.
Yeah.
So I think Wendy was onto something when she was talking about training, because there's a guy who's like, right? Because we were just talking about a cop might be scared because he's smaller than the person, but if you're training on the situation, and also I think defunding is a bad idea. I think if you made the starting salary for a police officer higher, I think you have the choice of selecting who you want because there'll be more applicants. Because right now, I don't think anyone's running to the academy to want to train. The salary's crap,
no.
and what are you getting? You're just getting whoever comes, right? It was one of the things people would tease the army about.
Like people, the respect level goes down. People don't want to do that.
Like
who wants to sign up to be ostracized every day in the job that you do
for that kind of money?
Yeah.
For more money, dude, come on. There are people that sold their soul to Satan practicing law because it's good money.
Well,
right. There are people that become medical professionals and willing to pay loans until they turn 70 because there's money behind it. Yeah, you want to help people, but come on, there's a big fat check at the end. Accountants, real estate. Who gets into real estate because they love selling houses? Get out of here, man. Miss me with that. That's for the money. Period. So why not make this competitive, where people who might be in it for the money, knowing that they could lose their job, knowing that they lose their job. This great job that not just supports their family but enhances their quality of life.
You can make the same argument for teachers, right?
Yes.
And the education system, right? We hit that early. The education system is in a dark and terrible place, and we don't have anybody that wants to teach anymore. I mean, like I went to school thinking I was going to be a teacher. That was what I wanted to do. All the way from elementary to high school.
You would have made a good one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
she have made it one of the best?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm teaching in my own way now, making courses and stuff for Be Better, but and I love it. But it's the same thing. If you pay people to do a teaching job, you're going to have better educated children. But that's not what we're getting. We're getting, well, and this is going down a rabbit hole, but you're getting teachers who want 3 months off in the summer and 2 weeks at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Make a teacher salary like 120 grand a year. Make a teacher salary like that. I stick by my philosophy because everyone's gonna be like, "You're gonna have bad teachers anyway."
Okay.
No, you won't.
No,
you won't because they'll be gone because they can be replaced by someone who wants the job just as bad, who's just as good.
Yeah,
well,
or better.
And allow teachers to be held to a standard to keep that great salary that they have.
Yes.
Okay. It works.
I could never be a teacher.
It works both ways.
No, but
you can't excuse.
Yeah. But listen, if I did
teachers.
teaching, let me interrupt you. If I did teaching for the money, let's say I did it because it was a good salary, they would know if I was a good teacher right away. I already know I can be a teacher because if a kid spits gum at me or tells me to go F myself, I'm going to be like, me? What? And next thing you know, the cops are, I'm going to be on the news, right? Hey, holding the kid out the window by 1 foot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be in jail and I'll lose the job. But you know what I'm saying? The salary, look, I'm not saying the salary won't attract the psychos, but the salary is not required to keep them. That was all I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to the cops. Yeah. The salary is not required to keep them. And, like in New York, we were taught in our neighborhood, the army was just for dummies. Who couldn't make it in the real world. But man, was I wrong. And I was right. There are some dummies in the army. But some of the brightest people I've ever met in my life. Never mind my permanent duty station. Just boot camp alone. Where you from? Mississippi. Where you from? Texas. West Virginia. That dude can't even read. That dude, he's an engineer. What the hell is he? He's got a 4-year degree in engineering. What the hell is he doing here? So this one, his grandfather promised him $750,000 if he served 4 years in the army. So he has an inheritance deal that required him to serve. So the reason why you join is interesting and whatever.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm listening.
No, you're just asking. But see, you're just asking the questions of the people around you, and look what you learn.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, what a melting pot to have access to people that have grown up different places, different experience, different education levels, family dynamics. It's a melting pot, and that's where you learn the most about yourself, I think, and others, right? As you learn more about others, you learn more about yourself in the process. So, but yeah, it's
interesting. So Wendy, here, let's talk about LA. I'm going to do a 60-second countdown clock, right? 1 minute, and you're going to give me 3 things you like about LA.
Ooh.
You're going to give me 3 things you don't.
Oh, I get to be the negative?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I'm gonna give you
La 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 la.
I'm gonna start a fight. I have to do it every
That's
time.
your song. Or actually, I could do 3 things I don't like. I mean, I could jump in on this. Do you want to do what you don't like? Which one you want to do?
I'll give you either one.
All right. 3 things you like about LA. Let me do my chroma key. There goes your clock. Wendy, 3 things you like about LA. Go.
People who live pretty healthy lifestyle around here, like access to really good food and like healthy mindset people that are going to yoga. We are a very fit population around here. And, you know, to the extent that you take that to like where it's too much and it's self-indulgent, I'm not into that. But like, I love that everybody's out moving and we have the weather to be able to be out moving because the rain's been enough lately. And I wouldn't want to live anywhere where it rains like this all the time. Being able to see the ocean. I don't know how you leave this coastline. I think about leaving California all the time, but if I take a walk and look at this coastline, you freaking cannot beat it. I don't know. I've been all over the world.
You got a 3rd thing?
Third thing that I like about LA. Oh man. I swore to never date somebody that lives south of the Grapevine, and look where I am. So
That's right.
I got you too.
Yeah.
I got you
I think
too.
you count funny, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm digging deep for the 3rd. I might tell you something about.
She's like
diversity.
somewhere the cameras aren't rolling.
Yeah, no, I mean
It's hard.
I like living among diverse people. I really do. I don't need everybody to think like me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ashley, 3 things you don't like about LA.
Oh, 3 things I don't like. The homeless issue. I think for a place where we have such a large population, we should have, you know, and such an affluent population too, we should have a better handle on our homeless. I think that the littering issue is large. I think for a place where we are about cleaning up our environment and paying attention to climate control and things like that, I don't think we pay attention enough and take care of our direct community. And I think the last thing is I just feel like most people are really, really fake. Like, sorry if you're watching and you take offense to that, but I want to get into the real conversations. Why you are the way that you are. Yeah. I'm starting to fight with that one. I see you over there. But just be real, because like I'm sorry, I don't have time for the fake anymore. That's you asked me the question about friends earlier. I don't have a lot of friends because I would rather sit at home on my couch with my cat than go out and have fake conversations about the weather and the surf and what kale salad they had for lunch.
We're not into small talk.
Dude, let me tell you something. When my wife was like, I'm going to my friend's party and you should go because her male friends are going to be there, I'm like, no. Hell no. We're going to sit there and talk. 3 guys who never met each other, a circle jerking, talking about the 405. I don't think so.
The 405?
No, yeah. No, I'm like, and there's a little argument over it. I'm like, those are your friends. Not my friends. Just it's your friends, and I don't know how long you had that problem, but it's not mine to solve. Okay, so I guess I'll pick one. I'll just go with 3 things I like, because 3 things I don't like is too easy, because I'm a hater from New York City.
Fair.
It is. I drink Haterade is served in vanilla, and that's my favorite flavor.
Wait, you should do a mix. Do 2 that you like and 1 thing, the biggest thing you don't like.
There you go.
I'm
All right,
curious.
cool.
I like that.
All right, good. With a minute to do it, let's see if I could put my gift of gab.
Did I make the minute?
I have no
Yes.
idea.
Well, the horn went off. So,
Oh.
All right, here's what I like about being in LA. Beach volleyball and indoor volleyball. When I was in New York, I had a bunch of opportunities, and I maximized them. And there's a good old boys club that I wasn't a part of. And some instances I passed them. Some instances I couldn't. I had a ceiling and I couldn't go. And here, I like it because I don't have to be part of a good old boys club to do my job and affect the way that I change people's lives, juniors and kids and all that stuff. The second thing I like about LA is I really, really don't miss cold winters in New York. And though the last month and a half has not been a great sample size of what LA life's supposed to be like, but I really enjoy not having to worry about when I can do outdoor activities and this and that, because New York, we find a way, but we don't like it. All right, now getting back to the one thing I don't like, it is TLC, the case of the fake people. Goodbye to all the fake people in my life. I never wanted you around me, so be on your way. You better think twice before you let people in your life. Don't want you to win that race, because if you do, it lessens their space.
Yeah.
I really, really can't stand fake people. Now I live in Hermosa Beach, and if I don't leave my zip code, it's a good life, because I know everybody here, and I got my right. We got our little escapisms. We got the ocean. We got karaoke. We got, the food is garbage out here, but there are one or two good spots. But like Ashely said, well, not like you said, but like I'm saying right now, a year in, I was just like, you come here and it's sunshine, good morning, neighbor. How you doing? Living a dream, But then you're here long enough where you say good morning to that same person. Hey, good morning. How you doing? He goes, I'm like, that's the same dude that just told me living a dream yesterday, And he looked like he didn't even know me. And at some point, you get caught up in the validation game in your career, and then when you get caught up in the validation game, you start validating yourself, and then you become what you despise until you finally say, I had enough. And then my first year, I told Kelly, and I'm gonna say this again, I'll give you out the floor. And I said, like Danny DeVito said, in that movie Romance in the Stone, I said, if you want to kill me, take me back to Brooklyn and kill me. All right, take me to the Verrazano Bridge, put two in my head, let me die like a man. Don't let me die in the sand like a snake, like a goddamn snake. That's what I told her, Kelly. She cracks up when I go through this Chekhovian suffering, which is the only time she laughs. She can't get a smile unless I get hit by a car. She's like, oh my God, the way he flew. Oh, very funny.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God.
Well, and to be fair, I think that there's fake people everywhere, It depends on where you are, but it's just, we've talked about getting out of California for a long time. You can, even, I said something about the environment, even to the point where in a couple years, I forget, because I've not done my research on this, so maybe we need to look it up, but California is putting in a law where people who own their own homes have to separate their garbage, not just recyclables and garbage now, but compost food, paper garbage, plastic garbage, and recyclables. Like, come on now. Can people just be responsible and dispose of their own garbage without having to have a law come down from the government? Like, I can't. That to me is an example of being fake.
Right.
If we cared about our environment, we wouldn't need the state to make a law for us to separate our garbage.
I think.
Well, and then what's happening when it gets to the dump?
No doubt.
It just gets in the same place.
I can't confirm that, but I've heard that even the separating we're doing now is not making any difference.
If there's anything,
which is really disheartening.
If there's anything I can't stand someone that says I should drink through a paper straw, but I'm drinking through a plastic cup. Oh. I'm like, which one has more plastic, the straw, or is it option A, the straw, or B, or C? Both A and B are correct.
She said that. She just walked out the other day of a restaurant. She said, I'm going to start choosing my restaurants based on the type of straw they give me. And she doesn't like the paper straw.
Paper straws, go away. It disintegrates in your mouth.
I don't want a straw I can chew, that chews me. I want a straw I can chew. I do the chewing. It shouldn't chew me.
Yes,
I
chew it.
left in my mouth. Yes. See this? I went straight metal now. LSU. Thank you, Derek Zimmerman. I love you, man. Someone stole my Buffalo Bills mug, so guess what? Here we are.
Well, but that's really funny because I used to chew on my straws as a kid. Yeah. Like Six Flags, you'd get all day.
But that's what plastic is for. You could pick your teeth. You could put it between your teeth. Chop. Good luck with a regular straw. Now, look. As far as the fakeness and being real is concerned, and Wendy will appreciate what I'm about to say next. Just do what you can with the limitations of your own humanity, right? Like, I do not want Bill Gates to lecture me on the environment, on like take the train more, don't drive or whatever, when this dude's flying a private jet, right? I don't want somebody or Dr. Fauci telling me that I should get like a vaccination and this and that when I'm a healthy person and an different age demographic.
Yep.
This guy has been twice vaxxed, twice boosted, twice Paxlovided, and still got COVID. All right. So
How many times?
yeah, right. So I don't want Hollywood lecturing us on what's going on and with the planet and saving the hungry and the U word we're not supposed to talk about until maybe episode 5 or 6. I don't want to. I mean, there's pretty much nothing off limits, but right now we're doing a good job being off limits, talking about a certain topic that we'll tackle later when we have more groundedness and tell everybody else to go kiss it. But I don't like Hollywood talking to us about lecturing us on stuff like that. Like Ricky Gervais said, if you get in the word, thank your agent, thank your God, and off. You are in no position. These people that are lecturing us. Remember the thing that monologue I did about they're fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did a monologue called
Legit.
"They're Fine," and I might do that for my next bit next week.
That'd
And
be
it started
awesome,
with the story
Jay.
you told me, Wendy, because I'm talking too much. Wendy, talk to me. Because let's start this off. Let's hit it off. Because you're the one that introduced it with the story you told me. So tell the audience the story that you told me. Stanford game. Stanford was playing Long Beach State.
Long Beach State at the Pyramid last year. Yeah, it was just last year. And they have the like donor sponsor Long Beach community down there on the end. Everybody's like drinking beers, having
Like a
fun.
VIP
Like go for
like
it.
a VIP
Have a great
section,
time.
right?
VIP section. There you go. Have a great time. Whatever you did to get in there, no problem. We're sitting courtside behind the Stanford bench. Tony Rodriguez was with me, and
I'm so glad the camera's not on me
there
right
was
now.
there was a woman standing up every time out. She'd come up and she'd put her little tongue depressor with the index card that says "masks up," and you had to put your mask because we're all cheering. Things are going down.
Oh, I thought it was a ping pong paddle, but go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
it was the tongue depressor and the index card that said "masks up." And then you look down there on the end in the VIP section. There's nobody telling them to put their masks up, and they're high-fiving, having a good time. Why can't we all be having a good time? Why are the rules one thing for us? And I mean, I'm a rule follower, so I don't like this. Feels very, I'm doing something wrong. Like, good God. But I lost it over that. Like, I started embarrassing my kids at the end. I'm like, I'm not going into the grocery store right now with my mask on. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? And we really became this disjointed society because when you start making rules that don't apply to everybody and that don't, like, you lose leadership when you make rules that don't make sense.
It's not funny. What? It's not funny. Why am I laughing? It's not funny. This is serious.
But it was in your face.
To see her frustrated, it's funny.
At least Kelly's here in spirit. Jesus Christ. I got to keep that woman's name out my mouth. How many times did I mention on this podcast?
Yeah, so that went to they're fine. Because the rules are different for an elite group of people, which, like I said, I don't care how you get in. I've been in VIP sections. It's fun. It's great. If you can get there, go for it. But the rules shouldn't be different. If everybody can get it, everybody needs to wear a mask, or everybody can't.
All right.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Ashely, because I have a ton to say about this,
I-
but don't want to hog no mic here.
I mean, I can't say how much I agree with that because, I mean, and even as a coach, you wrestle sometimes with which rules you want to put in front of your team because you know that if you put rules in place and you don't execute them or have consequences for them, they don't mean anything, right? So I'm a rule follower too growing up in my household, and it took me a long time to start to see that, well, depending on what perspective you're looking at, some rules are better left not a rule, for starters. Some rules are meant for other people more than others, but that's inherently the problem, right? Is that these elitists make these rules for us to follow, and they use fear tactics and mainstream media to make us feel a certain way. And then we're like, okay. And then we see people, going out about their daily lives, normal, like getting haircuts, having dinner parties, and maskless. And again, like if it's something that everybody's going to do and it's for the greater good, I can get on board with that for 2 or 3 weeks. But then when you start to see the data and the research and the hypocrisy, why should I listen to what you're telling me to do, but you're not listening? There was
doing it.
Yeah, there was you know, I watched or I listened to Candace Owens' podcast Shot in the Dark, and one of the things she talks about was as she was growing up and she started to pay attention in her elitist neighborhood, people weren't getting vaccines in her, and so she looks around and she goes, well, if this is the stuff that's supposed to be the biggest, the most advanced healthcare, this is going to save us, this and that. She's like, well, why aren't the people in my neighborhood getting it?
Yeah.
And that was the first red flag she started to, and to me, that's the thing. Like, okay, if they don't have to do it, why should I?
Now, good. I'm so glad you said that because, well, I want to say something about Candace Owens. Candace Owens, I think, is a highly intellectual person, and a lot of things she says are well thought out. And the only thing I wish she would stop talking about is black people. Like, she says these things like white supremacy is not on like my top 100 list of problems. And when she says that, you got this white population that acts like she's a spokesperson for black people everywhere just because she's black.
Right.
And that's the only problem I have with her. Yeah. We have political ideologies, but my problem is not her political ideologies, because as righteous as I think mine are, maybe I'm not completely right either. So you want someone on the other side of the aisle, and you admire and respect someone like that, because you can have a conversation and it gets heated, and that's the kind of girl that'll have a drink with you later.
Absolutely.
She's not the one to be like, nope, I'm not, you're not the type of person. No. Candace Owens is that type of person. Now, the whole time you were doing this, I was scrolling because I was actually looking for the whole thing, because I did a whole monologue called They're Fine.
Oh, okay. Your monologue?
That started with Wendy Jones. Yeah. And there was this really cool line, and I said, the reason, Wendy, and I put you on the double screen here, the reason why that woman with the index card with the popsicle stick on it, the reason why she didn't go to those people, that VIP section where they were drunk and red-faced and boiling and smiling, and making out with each other and having a good time, is because they would have told her where to stick that index card on the whatever. So there's a group of people that do that and try to execute these laws and commands because they think it's easier to prey on a population or demographic people that they think might be the least resistant. Mm-hmm. And if they're the most resistant, like if you said something, it's easy for her to play the victim because she'll have someone to fall back on, right? That'll come up to you and when you say, oh, you're wrong, right? But if she went up to those guys and they told her, hey, no, screw you, go get out of here. This is vodka in here, bye. Like if she went to people and said, you're going to do something about them, they'd be like, nope. So, and I think the message of the whole thing, while I'm scrolling at the same time and trying to find this, stop listening to people who are trying to apply these set of rules that we know in our heart of hearts that they're not going to follow ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like you were talking about the data and mask and all that stuff and this and that. Let me tell you something, Ashely. You will know if a pandemic's for real when billionaires start doing it.
Amen.
On a private jet, right? Yes. Billionaires are not wearing masks, right?
Yes, pay attention.
On a commercial liner,
look at the Super Bowl.
Wear the mask. The Super Bowl. The only one that weren't wearing masks were the people that were working there and the staff. LeBron James out there dancing to Snoop and Dre. You know what I'm saying?
And those people were made to when you're worried about security and safety and issues of keeping a roof over your head and feeding your family, and you can't go to work, you get sick and you create an environment where you can't go to work. People are working from a fear-based mentality.
Agreed.
That are still wearing masks. Now, sometimes their employers are telling them because all these laws, but when you're working from a fear-based mentality, it is very easy to scare someone into submission to do something.
Right.
Well, and that's what he hit on, I think,
Yeah.
with the path of least resistance, right? The people who
Right.
are going to provide the least resistance are the people, like the college students who were told that they can't go to school or can't play their sports unless
Yeah.
they get vaccinated.
Right.
Okay. That's the only thing they have in their lives. At least most of them, that's the only important thing at that point. Yeah, they have families and things like that, but you take away their college and their sport and they go, well, who am I and what am I going to do now?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
the other population for me was the teachers. Like I have a very close friend of mine who had to get the vaccine so that he could keep his job and his tenure and his retirement package that he's only 7 years away from.
Right.
And for me, like you're threatening their livelihood
Exactly.
so that they do something that really they don't want to do. So now when we're talking about America as a free country, well, not when you're forcing people to take medical procedures
Right.
of any kind.
And here are some of the examples I went to. We talked about the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
There's maybe 7 to 10% of people who are wearing masks, and I wouldn't be surprised if 80% of that 10% were the people that work there. You have people in these VIP booths. The Super Bowl tickets are what, like $15,000 a piece, even for the cheap seats. Are these people going to make them wear a mask if they don't want to? No. Why? Because they're rich. And I said, look, let's not have fights over them not wearing a mask. They're fine. Don't fight over rich people, okay? It is the same way we treat people who are at the correspondence dinner. Now, educating the people on who the correspondence dinner, I'm going to put the camera on me. The correspondence dinner is basically this thing every year where like they get a comedian to like roast politicians and other journalists.
Love
So
that.
it's a room full of journalists, Fox News, CNN, everybody,
Yeah.
and maybe
It's
some independent
huge.
media.
It's
They're
awesome.
all in the same room and they get to roast, and certain media members get to roast the politicians. So here they are in a room, and it's February or March 2021, right? My kid still has to wear a mask in school, right? She's and if you
Yeah,
know
right.
if you know the data about kids,
Yeah.
the probability is so low of them
No, and the
having
things that
severe
they're
illness or
losing,
death, it can't even be
the
quantified in
things
a
they're
statistic.
losing,
They're still
Yeah.
they're still
No, but-
wearing masks in their schools.
But here you
Yeah.
have kids that are the lowest risk that have to wear masks. But in this room, fat, old, obese, comorbidity, immunocompromised. Like this room is filled with the poster children for the immunocompromised. These are the people that should be wearing masks. These are the people that should be getting double vaxxed, triple vaxxed, triple paxed. And here they are in the same room. No one's wearing a mask. No one's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Now I want you to do a head call or like a roll call on who's in this room. You have unelected officials that are giving us suggestions on how to run our communities, lockdowns, and this and that. Suggestions, because when everything goes wrong, we didn't force anyone to do anything. It was just a suggestion. So we know who they are. They're in that room, right? And then you have the politicians who made those suggestions and made them policy, all in the same room. And the head count is the media who went on national TV and weaponized it. Because as I told you before, doctors under the Nuremberg Code can't make you take something or make you not take something. It is ethically wrong for them to coerce you into even into not taking it,
Right.
much less taking it. Not either way. But the media, they're not bound by that ethical obligation. So the guys who had the data, supposedly, the guys who made the data public policy, and the media who shamed you into not abiding, all in the same room. No one's wearing a mask. All of these, it's like a good old boys, like Carlin said, it's a good old boys club, and you're not in it. So I think the point I was trying to make was stop arguing about CNN, start arguing about Don Lemon and these guys. They're fine. Rachel Maddow gets paid $23,000 an episode. She's fine. Tucker Carlson is the most viewed show on all of news.
Yeah.
No one's even close,
Nope.
unless you consider Joe Rogan the news, and then that's a wrap. But when Roe versus Wade got overturned, right? Many of us were devastated, right? We never thought in our lifetime we would see that. And no matter what side of the argument on it you're on in this, I will pose this question that no one can disagree with. If a millionaire wants to have an abortion, does it matter what the law is?
No.
No.
Just trust.
First of all, these politicians are so old. Having babies is a non-issue to them, and if they're young enough, they'll get their abortion.
Yeah.
So the people that were for this, that are standing there saying, "Oh well, all life is precious," let me tell you something. It doesn't apply to them, because if they want one, they'll get one. Stop fighting over these people. They're fine. They're fine. I went too far. I know this is a podcast and we're supposed to all talk together, but this is something I might want to do for my radar either next week or the week after. AOC, right? She supported the mask mandate, but when she wanted her freedom, she flew to the place where they didn't have it, Florida, with her boyfriend, chilling, taking pictures. She's fine. Ted Cruz talking about he's through and through. He cares about Texans, but when the power went out, he took his family. He went to Mexico, telling everybody else, "Hang in there. Don't fight over Ted Cruz. He's fine." This video is never gonna get this video is never gonna get shared. This video is never gonna get out. I think I ruined it for everybody.
Well, on the flip side, so yeah, the elitists are fine. Well, what about the people that aren't fine? What about the people like us? What about our kids? I still pick up a child from school sometimes, and she comes out and she's wearing a mask on her face, and I go, "Oh, is someone sick in your classroom?" She goes, "No, I had a stomach ache, so they put a mask on me." I'm like, "Take it off your face. You don't need it anymore."
No.
Like, as we're walking out the door, take it off. And she goes, "Okay."
Mm-hmm. For YouTube purposes, the vaccine works fine. It helps prevent transmission, and it's safe and effective for everybody. So I have to make sure that YouTube says that, because I don't want this taken down. But our opinions are our own, but we know what the right thing is. With a constitutional wink. No, but you are right. Listen, the solution is this. Beverly Hills said that they were not, regardless of what politician made policy about masking and indoor masking, the law enforcement in Beverly Hills said they were not going to enforce it. Yeah. I know people are thinking that Beverly Hills get to do it because they're rich, but those sons, they can't do that. Yes, we can. That's the solution, is organize and say, if you want us to do this, this is going to have to be military force. This is going to have to be, you're going to have to take your totalitarian nature, and you're going to have to do it more notoriously than what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and then we're backing out of everything that America is, which is what we've been doing since 20.
But that the world needs to show in full display. If what's going on was what we think was going on, they're gonna have to do it. They're gonna have to do it physically. They're already doing it on social network. I don't even think this video is even gonna make it out. I don't even think this episode's even gonna make it out, except Spotify was in Sweden. No. Thank you, Spotify.
Yeah.
But if we do that, we expose. Because sooner or later they have to come out. They have to come out harder if we resist. And if they're the ones that have to, and the way for them to come out harder exposes actually who's behind all this.
Well, but how do we resist? The best way for us to resist is to come together. And in order for us to come together, we have to find common ground. Yeah. So I mean, even as the tragedy we were just talking about this last night or this morning, but like the tragedy that happened in Nashville to yesterday's news cycle with Trump being indicted, already within 4 days, they're taking a topic that we could potentially have come together on and unified, and they're flipping it to the orange man, who everybody has a polarized opinion on him, whether you like him or you don't. It's polarized.
Right. Well, Elon Musk is the start. Elon Musk has actually made a media outlet that allows people to express their opinions. And when these opinions are generated by a place of truth, and as they continue to grow and become more popular, people will go less to what they're spending their cable bill on, right? Like, if you go on the Hill Rising, pretty politically neutral. I mean, there's some things they won't talk about because they need to save their channel too, just like I'm not talking about certain things, right? Sometimes we got a Jimmy Dore, who's actually gotten demonetized, but still getting the viewership because it's too late. He's one of the most judgmental in the entire world, but you need someone in your life like that. That's always that, you know, that's like, you got a 3.9, you didn't get a 4.0, you know, you need someone, you need a really cool Jewish guy like him that understands that redemption doesn't always work, guilt does. Right. So, but that's how it starts. Second, after that level of free speech starts to get bigger, we start voting differently. You're going to start having candidates run that they might be part of a political party, but on a smaller scale, they have constituents they want to answer to. You know, we can't control who becomes president in 2024. Does everybody agree it's going to be Trump or Biden? Mm-hmm. Right? Isn't that embarrassing? That out of all the brilliant minds we have in this world, we have one guy that might send us back to the Middle Age, and the second guy won't even remember who he's running against. So, but that's who we got.
Yeah,
that's who we got.
Unfortunately,
and now, guess what? There's going to be arguments about picking a. Do you understand what I'm saying about they're fine?
Yes.
A year from now, you're going to lose friends and family members arguing over those two guys.
Trump and Biden.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna literally be fighting about that, and if he doesn't win, it's rigged. This guy, you know, is he gonna make it to 2024? You know, I think Trump is. I think he's on the drugs. He's on the sauce, man. That dude, whatever they pumped into his system, he's dosed up to the eyeballs in it. And I think he could beat the Secret Service in a 2-mile run.
Well, I read somewhere that him being indicted is kind of a segue into him potentially being able to run and win the election in 2024. How much truth and clout there is in that, I don't know. But you know, they've not let him go. I'd like to do some
research. We're going to put that on our, and we need to have get our lawyer guy and talk about. I want our lawyer guy to talk about what's legal as far as procedure and this and that first. This way we can speculate where we go beyond that, because it is my belief that what they're actually charging him with exceeds the statute of limitations. It's already too late. So
except
so
for
in a legal
they made
arena,
it
a federal crime. Yeah. When
did they make it a federal crime though?
Yesterday.
when they gave it to the grand jury, I believe.
But his crime
it did exceed.
But his crime is grandfathered though.
Yeah.
You can right? Like if it was legal to kill someone 10 years ago, and if you make murder illegal now, you can't go back and prosecute me for something that happened before that law was instilled. You can't prosecute me for owning slaves, you know, before 1964.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe hit me up with some money. You know, a judge will let that pass summary judgment, and a jury will give someone the big chunk they deserve. Right. So. Yeah, so I understand there's a legal arena, but there's also a moral arena they're trying to change from Trump. They're trying to get him to lose the evangelicals about this whole adultery thing.
Me, though. You have got to be kidding me if we think this is the first man in power that's had a problem with giving clothes.
Look for
giving
the words.
Hush money. I know this is a tough topic.
Oh, I'm ready.
Wendy as a mom is trying to keep it clean.
Keep it clean, Mama Bear.
Is not the first time that a man with a great deal of power has objectified a woman, has had an affair when he's married, has paid hush money. Like, this is, yes, it's a moral issue, but it's
not Trump's moral issue.
It's not
Ashley,
Trump's moral issue.
Say that in your words.
Well, we were talking this morning about it. Okay, Trump is not the first person to be accused or found guilty of paying somebody money for sex, attention, dates, or anything else along those lines. I can name 3 television shows: House of Cards, Scandal, and Madame Secretary. All shows that have to do with covering up shit that politicians, government officials, and the like are guilty of. Okay? And so my question is, or my statement is, okay, Trump's guilty. All right, cool. Who else is guilty? Where's the rest of the truth? Right. Where's Biden's dirt? Where is so-and-so's? Like, it doesn't really matter who it is. They've all got dirt. And I remember when Biden took office it was 2020, right?
Yeah.
He took office in 2020, and I remember posting and asking this question, like, I wonder how long it's going to take for people to drop Trump out of the headlines. 3 years later, he's still in the headlines.
Yeah.
Because things are still his fault for things 7 years ago. Why? Like, it's...
Well, they need their viewership, and Trump is their cash cow. All right? Trump is so much of a cash cow that he didn't even spend a lot of money when he got elected in 2016. CNN was talking about him for free. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
MSNBC was talking about him for free. He doesn't need to do slogans and ads. He's basically planted the seed in everybody's head saying, this is what these people are going to say about me in the next few months. And when they started saying those things about him in the next few months, all of his followers were like, he's right, and we're voting for him. Dave Chappelle said it on Saturday Night Live. There was a level of candidness that came from his immoral behavior that people didn't like, but at the same time, it's like, wow, okay, at least we got this guy coming up front. I want to cite as a pretext. I didn't vote for Trump, and I personally and professionally don't even like the guy, but we're talking about critical thinking skills. We're talking about calling things what they are, right? This is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and for me, it's separating. Sometimes you have to separate things that are dark in someone's closet, like to a certain extent, right? Like he's not molesting or, doing bad things to children. That to me is a line that you don't cross.
No nuzzling.
But everybody has something going on behind closed doors, and you should separate that at times for the greater good. So where we're at right now in our culture and our country, like, we can't go on the way that we are. That's all I'm saying. I don't think Trump's the for sure answer, but he's not the answer because he had an affair with whoever.
But you're historically correct, right? Like, when this whole thing happened with Bill Clinton and like him getting his little pee-pee sucked on by Monica Lewinsky, right? Weren't everybody, particularly from the left, saying, what does that have to do with his job? His ability to do his job, right? Was that not the rationalization? And the question is, and it's so awkward and uncomfortable to defend Trump on this one, but how is that rationalization with Bill Clinton different from what Trump was? Why, if you want to defeat the guy, why don't you defeat the guy on the issues? The man helped start a false flag operation in Syria, right? Saying Assad bombed his own people or gassed his own people. And now, there's a project, like there's a wellness project, non-governmental organization, I forgot what it was called, confirmed that it never happened. They had toxicology reports. They were actually there on the scene, and then they went back and said that never happened. So now we're occupying a third of Syria. We dropped so many bombs on Syria, we ran out of bombs. Okay? And that was Trump. So why not get him on that instead of something that makes the left look like hypocrites, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're fine, don't you know?
They're fine. Yeah.
So they can be hypocrites and whatever.
There's an undercurrent of money on both sides of the aisle that are stopping real information from getting out there. Here's the difference. Here's the difference. Bill Clinton will go on TV and bang his fist saying, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. That's the kind of guy Bill was as a politician, and his followers said he's okay. One of the brightest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. He was at the Waldorf Astoria one time, and he has this bright light behind him. And if you've ever met him in person, his light is so bright when he moves. People like pigeons to bread move with him. It is just, talk about like people who are larger than life characters. To the nth degree.
So that's Bill.
Yeah.
I did not have sexual relations, blah, blah, blah. Trump is the kind of guy that'll be like, I didn't sleep with her. We were up all night long. You know what I'm saying? Sleep is not the word I want to use. We were up all night long. And people see that and they respect that. And it's just about choosing picking your poison. But I think, Wendy, I want to give you the floor, but I think where his star was born, Chappelle said this best. The first debate he had with Hillary Clinton, she was like, well, you found a way around not paying your taxes. And he said, that's because I'm smart. And we were like, holy sugar, he just said that. He didn't deny or didn't try to deflect it. I did that because I'm smart. The other thing they said about him was when he was saying the system's rigged, and they said, do you have evidence? And he says, my evidence is I use the system all the time to rig it. I'm part of the rigged system. And that was his evidence. And these are brave, honest things. And the last thing was, she was like, he took advantage of a loophole and he doesn't pay any taxes and this and that. And he's like, He says, you were senator for years, and that same loophole was there for you to vote against or vote for, and you never voted against it. And you know why? You never voted against it because you enjoy the same loophole, and the people that elected you, and all enjoy the same loophole that I do. So if you got rid of it for me, you'd have to get rid of it for everybody else. And when he said that, a star was born.
And before you go, I'm just going to reiterate my personal preference is I would rather know the devil. I would rather know the truth and take it at face value than have people in power that are scheming behind closed doors and telling lies and all of these things. Yeah, it took a few years for it to be uncovered because everybody covers those things up. Right. But I would rather know the truth. Mm-hmm. And hopefully there's some, apology and some remorse that comes with some of this at some level, right?
Maybe, maybe apology. Right?
For lying for so long, maybe not for the actual act or whatever, but sorry for what it caused my wife, or, the country or whatever. But to me, I'd rather know the truth than not the truth.
Oh, always.
Wendy?
Well, what I'm sitting here thinking is when your ego and your intelligence is greater than your integrity, we're all screwed. And that's what we have in power. It's hard to find somebody that has a sense of integrity to do what's right. Because you put yourself in that position. It used to be a position of service. Now it's a position of entitlement and how do I keep my power?
Mm-hmm. An elected king instead of a servant of the people. Yeah. Right. I mean, me, for starters, I just want a president that doesn't sexually assault. Give me a guy in there that doesn't rape. I just want someone that doesn't rape. All right? I mean... Biden with what's going on, like the Democrats saying, "Oh, that woman made it up." Trump and everybody, "Oh, that's made up. Oh, that woman's this and that." Dude, you can't say always believe the woman with one instance and say don't believe that woman for the other. The hypocrisy. I want consistency on both ends. As far as like what you said, if you want to consider this a moral arena, it's got to work both ways. And if you just want to say, forget morality, consider this a political arena, then let's talk about politics. Let's talk about let's talk about policy. Let's talk about the things that affect our everyday lives. This guy paying Stormy Daniels doesn't affect my life. Monica Lewinsky, like Bill Clinton, I don't know if that was like a power play, like she felt like she had to do that or whatever. That's not my concern. That's not my concern, and certainly it didn't affect the way he did his job. Right, he left with a surplus. So, and right, whatever Trump's personal history is didn't affect his policy. True. No, lobbyists did. I mean, at least with him, like you said, you kind of see it coming a mile away, and you're like, all right.
I don't like the argument anymore, though, that the world has gotten so bad that you have to have this massive ego. Right. To exist and create change and stand up to bad guys and do the right thing. It didn't, I'm starting to sound so old. It didn't used to be that way. Like, why do we have to have a guy that just doesn't like to get along with people? Like, he has to be this brash. Like, maybe, why is it that way?
I don't know.
That's the argument.
But that's not an old school thing, Wendy. Like, if you look in the history of man, the greatest minds were bags. King David had so many wives, right? Like Steve Jobs. Don't even get me started. Bill Gates, our Microsoft guy. Like, these things enhanced our quality of lives. Bill Clinton with his controversy, right?
But we're hitting a declining place in our society where something's got to change.
Well,
where the whole individual, where the full person, where how you integrate who you are and what you do, is going to make so much more difference if we're going the right direction. Otherwise, we're going to hell in a handbasket.
How about this person's a good guy, right? Like, here's what the difference in the past where we grew up. My dad's an iron worker, right? Everyone can look at him and say, that guy's a good dude. Yeah. No one made this illogical leap that he's a great dude. No one made this leap that he goes to church every Sunday. No one's like this. He's a born again Christian, ministering to people in his spare time. And in our day, growing up, being a good guy was good enough. Right?
Yeah.
And when you have these politicians, and if you're the oppositional party, what you spend a lot of time doing, thanks to the media, is looking for that person's worst moment. It's very, very easy to take someone's worst moment, go in the past, and it's easy to find it.
Yep.
And to take these worst moments, put them all together, put them in a big sandwich, right? And then say, that's who that person is. Like all the other good stuff, right?
Right.
Forget it, throw it out. I can sit here as a Trump hater and say Trump's done some good things.
Yeah.
Right. I could come here and say Biden actually tried to arrange a like the Minsk agreement and all that stuff and this and that. So I mean, I could say good things about good people. And Wendy, I think the difference is the glass half full philosophy has now turned into a bandwagon fallacy. A premise is popular, therefore it's correct.
Yeah.
You know, a straw man fallacy. You take this one thing about someone, and use that to represent as a whole.
Right.
So I'm educating people on translations, on meanings here.
And where nobody is the totality of their worst moment of their lives, is what you're saying.
Right.
And can we even find the stories that are getting out there? They're not equal. There's a certain narrative being pushed.
Every which way.
Okay? Like the Twitter files, without the Twitter files, we would not know that.
They would be called conspiracy nuts. They would still
be calling us conspiracy nuts. And that story is still getting hated on and buried, and it hasn't hit
in one major news outlet yet.
It's insane.
Yeah. And like I said, it's the gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's the fourth branch of government.
Yeah.
Okay? The narrative is coming out and it is not being told. So now I just got us kicked off.
That's okay. We're gonna have our own media.
Turns.
No, but we're all gonna have our own media thing for this. This is the option podcast, and our option is to talk about these things, right? Option doesn't just mean hit on two in volleyball, and I mean, it's weird because all of my this is designed originally just for volleyball guests. So, sorry guys.
Yeah, if you came
I
volleyball today.
always knew where you were gonna head.
Yeah.
I always knew where
that
you
was
were
my
coming.
agenda.
That was good. No.
Well, I think people should find a way to cling to sports, right? Look, I have friends. Like, I'm pretty sure Ken Steffes leans right, right? There's a lot about him that says righty,
I met Ken Steffes at the Republican convention.
But I'm centrist left. I'm centrist left, right?
Yeah.
We can have a drink, right?
You can have
Jason
great
Olive.
Conversations.
Jason Olive, who's my program director, was a big Obama head until found out we were being spied on by our government. He doesn't like that stuff, right? There was, this whole thing with when COVID hit. Everyone thought he went against his party. He was an independent. He took an oath to the office of self-honesty. Mm-hmm. How's that? He took an oath to the office of self-honesty. And I don't know, maybe that's where I was going with this. I don't know how soon we got to wrap up, but I know you guys have to be hungry. But I did want to make sure we did a 60-second lightning round with just the two of you. I'm asking you quick questions. You got to give me quick one-word answers.
One-word answers?
Well, no. Like, for example,
words?
Best book you read, it's not going to be one word, right? It's
okay.
not. I mean, for me, it's Unbroken. That's one word, right?
Okay.
Or it might be Scars and Stripes. Did you read that yet?
Yes, I love that book.
That's awesome. It's Tim Kennedy. Where is it?
That's a good book.
There it is. You got, on her left shoulder, you got Hate Inc. And on the right side, you got Scars and Stripes. So we poured through a lot of stuff, and we can go through a ton more. I mean, this is just all interesting stuff. It's thought-provoking and very consistent with what we're trying to do with this podcast. Yeah. Is, look, I drew my own conclusions a lot in this thing, but that's what this podcast is for. Yeah. Our podcast is let the audience ask questions too, and have all of us. This is what we do. All of us collectively are answering these questions together. Mm-hmm. So let's see if I can pull up the actual topics. Man, that was a long monologue. Look at that. There it is. All right. I have a few of my own, but this gets me started. So we got the 1 minute time clock.
Oh, jeez. I'm not going to be good at this.
She's going to suck. All right. There's Wendy. There's Ashely.
We're here.
And I'm going to you and you. I'm not going to do this because I already made enough of this about me. So this is just you two. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Favorite comedian? Go.
Chappelle.
Dane Cook.
Last good book you read?
The Art of Grace.
The Great Alone.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Marvel.
Pool or beach?
Oh, that's a hard one for me. Both.
Probably the pool.
Wow. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Jesus Christ. Bourbon, vodka, or tequila?
Bourbon.
Vodka.
Yes! Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
March,
To watch or play?
Spectate.
March Madness.
Football.
Football.
Or baseball.
Favorite action film star growing up?
Action.
Action.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes!
My mind went to the Karate Kid, so.
Oh, the Karate Kid?
Wax on, wax off.
Oh,
Do you-
God.
is it-
Action film star, though. Oh, God. I don't know. I
Or
guess.
Denzel for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man on fire. Oof.
Yeah, legit.
Do you have an old phone or a new one?
Oh, old.
And you?
New.
Do you have an old Mac or a new one?
Old.
New. Courtesy of my boss.
They don't let me use my computer for my podcast. They give me something else.
Any fun conspiracy rabbit holes? This one, I'll give you an example. I'll lead first. Like the JFK assassination. Like, I'm one of those people, like, I'm not saying CIA or any of this ridiculous stuff. I just don't think that he made the shot. I don't think he acted alone. I don't think he made the shot. That's my conspiracy rabbit hole. Another example would be maybe the 2000 election, or I don't know.
For me, the
Building
rabbit
7.
the rabbit hole that I think is really interesting to go down is the question of, like, did our education system start to be manipulated and sent into the ground with the introduction of the U.S. Department of Education in the 70s?
Wow. Wendy?
That's a big one.
Wendy, make a mental note. I want to give you a very interesting fact. Like Bernie Sanders was promising free public college education for people if he got elected. In the 70s, at least up to 79, city universities were free.
Oh.
Education, you didn't have to pay for it. They were free. City College, CCNY, you're talking about March Madness. They're the only college to win the NIT and the NCAA the same year, 1951. And it was free education back then. So colleges were, so everyone's talking about, oh, I can wait tables and do that like these old farts. Yeah, it's easy to go to college. I mean, that's not the same now because even city universities, even for city residents, cost a lot of money, but it was free back then. Interesting stat because like you said.
For me, it's like
No,
the
but the
manipulation of
timeline,
the
there
mind.
has to be, maybe we do some research. There has to be some
Yes.
cross correlation with
Yeah.
those two
Well,
facts.
and then that led me to higher education.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what's going on in the university system across this country,
Yeah.
it's not good.
Well, when you think about that rabbit hole, like
Yeah.
education from elementary all the way through secondary, post-secondary, like that is a way to meld minds.
Right.
So how do you want to meld them or mold them is the question.
Right. Yeah.
And, and
Wendy,
we'll leave it as a question.
Isn't it interesting that when we grew up, you didn't need a college degree to support your family and support yourself? And then somewhere in the 90s and early 2000s, like when you had to apply for everything online, no one would hire you without a BA or BS. But now it seems like we're devolving back into, not devolving because that's a negative influence. But like, yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
I think that has something to do with what's going on. The university system has become so elitist
Right.
that you're graduating with huge bills and the job market doesn't require.
Right.
We have kids with way more creative. We can learn anything. Everything we want to learn is at our fingertips. So you have a lot of creative kids, and if you have people that are drawing that creativity out of them and showing them how to connect their passion with their purpose, they don't necessarily need to go to college, especially if you're just going to go and have to think one thing to get a good grade on a paper.
So is it your assertion that like maybe some of these positions that originally required a college degree just say don't let them train on vocational credits for this and this and that. I think you're on to something. I think it also solves like the student loan debt problem too. Like the reason why there's so much student loan debt is because these people think they have to go to college to be a bill coder, a medical billing coder, right? But what does that pay?
Not enough to pay off your loan.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think that they should have positions that require a degree when the money for those positions are not enough to pay off a loan. Medical school, we get that. Dental, we get that. And even that shouldn't even be that much. That's ridiculous. I know private universities get to do whatever they want, but I think the bigger future solution, present tense, we got a lot of work to do to help people now who are getting hammered. But for future tense, about like have a billing coder or an administrative assistant or a hospital administration. I don't think that someone that can run a department in a hospital should have to have a master's degree for that. I don't think you should have to be a head coach of a collegiate NCAA program and she should have a master's degree for that. I think a B or a BS at a minimum should be enough for that. And there's some people out there who are 3 times a coach than those people that have no degree, right? So you know, like Mario Trebich, my mentor, he was the assistant coach for the women's team in '84. The assistant coach for the Soviet Union men in '88, and head coach of the Netherlands in '92 and '96. So he has 3 silvers and a gold. I don't even know if that guy even went to college. Bill Gates never even finished college.
Well, a lot of minds are not meant to learn the way that our education system is set up. So
look at LeBron James.
Free. Yeah.
LeBron James is like, you ain't getting my money, NCAA. I'll watch March Madness, but you ain't getting a penny of my money. You ain't profiting off of my likeness. Sorry.
That's part of it, though. You have people's minds with creativity that want to be free, and you put them into an education system where you make them believe that they need this to survive and to be able to make their money and keep a roof over their head. Well, in actuality, they're just stifling that person. Like, I've found more freedom in every single area outside of what I studied. I went to school to be a teacher, and I have a master's in coaching and athletic administration. And those things are helpful in that I feel like I'm better equipped in my human relationships. I'm better equipped in emotional responses. I have more knowledge base than your average coach on how to wrap an ankle or do a gamer's thumb or whatever. But you can learn that nowadays on Google or YouTube, or the person next to you may know more than you. Like, to me, it's about having the creativity and the mindset to go find the information you need to survive in your life based on what you're doing.
I think also, at some point you just got to give people who are putting in the work a chance. Just give them a chance. I could use myself as an example. Like, when I moved here, I knew I had to start over, right? So what did I do when I moved here? I bought a camera, and I went to all the games and put them on YouTube and I did color commentary like a director's cut, like whatever. And that's what got me noticed. I got me noticed by Casey Jennings. Casey Jennings introduced it. We don't even know each other if I don't buy that camera, because I don't know Casey Jennings, and hence I don't know you. But you know what happens? Like, when it comes to you paying your dues and starting over and doing those things, and when it's time for you to get yours, those same people on the other end of the door is like, why would I give this position to a guy that was holding the camera? And I'm like, but you're the same person that says I have to pay dues all over again, right? So it's a catch-22. It's like, why would I give all this money or this position and this responsibility to someone that did that? And my answer is because that person did that to get to this. Why? And for the people who are hiring, the people that are in a position to give other people opportunities, and I guess this is maybe really code for me speaking about the AVP and my situation with him a couple of years ago that leads to me just saying forget about him. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that no more. I can't. No. No. So, but I guess the point I was trying to make was, you had a master's degree in coaching and administration. That's something that can easily be taught outside of the master's degree. But
100%.
But why not? Why not give someone a chance? Why not? Why does it just have to be a graduate assistant? Why? You got people out there. Man, you got people out there just keeping their nose in their work, right? My dad was an iron worker all his life, but he already told himself that was it, and as soon as he wanted more, that's when things went south. He was an iron worker, and then what happened was he had an opportunity he worked for Vertrod in Brooklyn. He was the only welder there, but American Ironworks, the locksmiths, American locksmiths.
Yeah.
They had 4 departments: glasswork, carpentry, ironwork, and there was a 4th one: glass, carpentry, ironwork, locksmiths.
Okay.
Right. So he took a chance because he thought he deserved more. He thought he paid his dues, and maybe you got a bug in your stomach, right? And it started when my mom made him take his test for his GED, and he got like every question right except 6. He missed 6 answers out of 300, you know. And then all of a sudden, these neurons started firing up, and he knew that he can take what he has and whatever. So he took a chance with American Ironworks, and he became their foreman, right? And then a couple years later, they got rid of the whole department, including him. So there's little regret from him doing that because he took a chance. But and I totally lost what I was saying. So maybe I'll just let this story float into outer space. But just an interesting story that, you know, give a guy like that a chance. A guy who's done ironwork his whole life, he can do more. He can teach people how to do it. He can relate to you know, to structural engineers, or like maybe Central Park wants those little gates around the trees. You know, hey, I know how to do that. Give someone like that actually.
Yeah.
Don't just say that guy's only a welder and that's how he's going to die.
So I have a question for you.
I'm still straight. I'm not gay.
And maybe it will help save the conversation. If you are an employer in that kind of situation, or somebody to give somebody an opportunity, what are you looking for? What attributes, characteristic, personality traits are you looking for to take chances on those people? Because if you don't have training,
right,
or you don't have a background in that expertise,
right,
what makes you want to take a chance on that person versus the person that can hand you a resume with all the background that you've asked for?
That's a great question. And it's the combination of 2 things. One, the things commensurate with their experience that actually gets them into the interview door. And 2, when you're interviewing a person, talk to them. Like, some of the best bosses, employers out there are the ones that are like, you know what? This person isn't as qualified as the other person, this and that, but I talk to this person. I believe in this person. I see the fire in his eyes. So there's nothing like being in a room with someone and talking to someone that's gotten completely lost, because those people don't get into the room unless their resume has the right keywords. So there's and what happens? You start hiring people that are not as qualified, and you wonder why your product is diluted. And you wonder why your product is good, but it could be great. What's in a way? What's in a way is the internet that is designed to bring all of us together. That has created this big wall. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I worked at a cardiology practice. Do you know I got hired on that job? I came in there and she said I had eyes like Paul Newman. And I went in there, and when she heard me speak, there was nothing I could say in that room was wrong. That was wrong. That's not a complete, that's almost a non sequitur to the argument I'm making right now. But the point is being in the room, 32 resumes, right? Just to be a file clerk for the Doctor of the Stars. You know, there are people that have on their resume, they're in school studying something associated with the medical laboratory sciences. Mm-hmm. At that time, my major was accounting. I took Principles 1 and dropped out of school. Right. So, you know, my mom went to Fordham Law School. Her major was sociology. So, but in the interview process, you see this woman, you see the handbag, you see maybe, you know she's got kids. I'm like, wait, that woman's single? And she looks young and strong, and she's doing that? What can she do for my company to that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That this is my festivity with the AVP, right? You just gave an example of why not hire the guy that won the gold medal as a player, right? Why not hire the person who coached there? Why not hire the South Bay product who's someone who has a pattern of being reliable, and maybe not necessarily taking everybody to the next level?
Right.
How about have someone in the room? Because that's the only thing I got on my side in this argument. Everything else is, you're right on the logic, you're right on the sense, but you're wrong on the person. And the only argument I have to support that is having that person in the room and ask yourself the question, the honest question. Resumes here, whoosh. Can he do the job or not? Look at that man in his eyes, and there's an intuition that goes beyond logic and sense.
Well,
that's right.
And I agree with you. Like, I would way rather sit in a room and have a conversation. I mean, I've been in a manager position for a job at, Jamba Juice when I was younger, literally when I was in my early 20s.
Do you see how we referred to this girl for advice?
And I would do interviews, and I love that piece of that job because you can ask people questions that they don't even know are coming, but you're going to be able to tell whether they can do the job or not. Can they make sure that the things get done the right time frame, this and that and the other? So I pretty much asked that question just for the audience out there. If you're looking at, somebody's resume versus somebody who maybe doesn't have the same expertise or background, but you feel like talking to them, they can get the job done and they're going to be a better asset, not just for the job, but for the company as a whole, right? Then they're the clear choice. I mean, I am that same kind of person. You put my stuff on a resume. I've done a lot of different stuff: education, sports, office managing, electrical contracting, solar, like babysitting, dishes, all of the things, gift wrapping. Okay?
Right.
It's really hard for me to summarize all of my experience and life lessons in one place, but you put me in a room.
Page, yeah.
You put me in a room and I will nail the interview.
Right.
I will make you think and know that I'm the best person for that job because I can answer the questions appropriately and in a position that, makes you want to invest in me.
Yeah, and Wendy, do you see the importance of that? I worked in a cardiology practice for 17 years, but if I were to decide I wanted something more like work in the billing department, they're more willing to hire the person who has less experience than me but went to St. John's University. That's wrong.
That's wrong too.
That's wrong. Someone that's actually worked affiliated with the university that has all experience. And I'm telling you, I'm defending these people because these are the people who deserve at least the opportunity to be listened to. They're not even getting in the room. My office manager, should have been heading up the Department of Cardiology, but she's Latino. She only had her 2-year degree. This person comes in out of nowhere. Right now, Cornell is hiring people to be managers instead of promoting from within. You know what I'm saying? And I understand the ability to bring someone that is really good, but what the hell, Wendy, this is part of the humanity thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
You and we all raised 3 different questions from 3 different departments. Are they qualified? Me, qualifications notwithstanding, can they do the job or not? Mm-hmm. Right? And I only mention the Olympic gold medal things because there's so many people that have more experience than me. But be honest. I'm here. I'll just call out names. Who's a better color commentator, me or Rich Lamborn? It's me.
You.
Who's a better color commentator, me or Dane Blanton? It's me. Who's a better color commentator between me, Kevin Barnett, and Cameron Irwin? That's an unfair fight. It's me. And this is going to stay on the podcast. I'm running out of time. I'm on 2 hours and 24 minutes and I got this on at the tail end and I got a whole nother cartridge I'm going to put in so we can wrap up the end of this. But this is coming from an emotionally heightened place. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I'm saying this for personal reasons, but so what? That's not a separate thing. It's connected to every human being. My story and what I'm telling you is an example that's relatable to what you've gone through in your life, what you are going through in your life, and everybody listening could be going through or has gone through. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Well, yeah.
I think you're sitting here with 3 people that have never really belonged to the cool kid crowd, and you get to a certain point in life and you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, I take me all the way back to preschool. I've
Amen.
been an outsider my whole life. I don't mind it anymore. I think different, but the truth is that, like, if you care, over your lifetime, if you are a person who cares and who cares equally about all people, you rise.
Right.
You create relationships that matter. All the other cool kid stuff doesn't matter. I tell my kids that all the time. Do not worry about who's cool. Don't worry about belonging to. I know you want to belong. That is an absolute human need, desire, want, whatever you want to call it. We want to be connected to each other.
Right.
But you don't sell out to belong to something. You be who you are, and you care about people, and everything else figures itself out.
Also, divide business from personal. Like everything I said, before we gave you the mic, some people might take that personally. It's not. I can have dinner with Dan. I'm cool with Rich Lamborn. I like all of these people. We're not talking about that. Where you attack the situation with the situation. Remember, we were talking about how lawyers, defense attorneys, and prosecutors can have dinner and drinks after back in the day? Yeah. Because that was about business, right?
Yep.
It shouldn't be about business because I don't get the job and it's personal when it comes to them. There's no shouldn't be a double standard there, right?
No.
It shouldn't be when someone lays off 30 people, you can't say that's just business, but when the manager gets laid off, that's personal. That's bull. Oh, now you've gone too far? No. You damn well, or yes, you're damn right I did. You know? I'm angry right now. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think, going back to the question I posed, I have been in that situation. I mean, I work for Wendy now, and in a space that was not something I went to school with, was not what I was educated in. I was educated, I went to school to be a teacher and a coach. Those were the two things I went to school for. But here I am, a producer of a podcast. I'm managing a startup. I'm producing courses. I'm a host. Like, I'm just doing all these different things. And part of it is because she believed in me and saw my work ethic. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
She saw my work ethic, the way that I show up, the way that I interact with people, the way that I care about not only my job, but how my job affects others, right? And so she took a chance on me, and that gave me, and this is where, where it comes back to the cool kid crowd, that gave me more freedom to not care as much. Like, I fight an uphill battle in this community because I want people to show up, work their butts off, get what they earn, not what they think they deserve or they're entitled to, but what they earn. And straight up, it's very head-on collision with a lot of the mentality that's here. And you see it in every aspect of life, but having somebody believe in you and take a chance on you allows you that freedom. I know. Allows you that freedom to be who you are, and it helps you grow. Like, the growth I've experienced in the last year has been some of the most growth I've had in my entire life, and it's because I've been able to let go of some of the stuff that's been holding me back, because I have someone who knows what I'm not only what I'm capable of based on what she's seen, but what I'm still learning and growing into. Like, I know she knows it's untapped. And yesterday or Wednesday was just another example when we walked into that recording.
When you walked into the room and you guys told me I might feel like I'm getting punked, or something like that.
That's what I said.
We were a little worried about that.
And you're like, I think Wendy was like, well, Ashley's gonna join us, and I looked at you and I gave you this look like, what's the bad news?
I love it.
You're like, cool. Where's the punk?
Mia, what's the bad news? That was the bad news. Cool. It's a good life, dude. But can you appreciate, based on what I said and what you just said, how we're both right in this situation?
Absolutely.
Everything you've gotten was, brings new meaning to the term meritocracy. Being judged on the merits and the work that you put in, and in the manner how you did it. But she sees that, but she also sees something else that goes beyond that goes beyond the logic and the sense. All right? The right thing to do is to ask herself, can she do this or not? And the answer is yes. And the answer is yes, right?
We send gratitude texts back and forth every day.
No, because
she makes my life so much easier and helpful. And you know what I was going to say about that? The quality that you look for in somebody in a startup or in an environment where, you, like, say the resume. I've never even seen your resume. I just know you. But you look for that quality of, will they figure it out or will they quit? Like, she doesn't quit. Like, if we have to figure something out, she's figuring it out.
Or I'm asking questions so I can figure it out.
And that means going to different people and asking the question, not thinking that you're going to figure it all out on your own, but having the tenacity to go and ask the questions and keep figuring it out. Because that's what startups are.
I'm just glad it was an easy choice.
Oh yeah.
Look,
No,
you
this
you can
conversation-
meet someone who's practiced law for 20 years and still and the guy still sucks.
Right.
He still sucks. That never dawned on anybody.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a great volleyball argument with my boy Kenny and this guy named John Rose. He passed away. God rest his soul. But I gotta trample on his grave for a minute. Kenny, my friend Kenny, was a pure indoor player, a middle. Didn't want to use his hands. So every time the ball went up, he just hit it on two. And they had no solution. These two guys who were actually, like winning tournaments, playing together. And then Kenny comes on the court in Central Park. And every time there was a pass that went above his head and it was tight, he just hit it on two. And he had the middle's wrist, that little caterpillar.
Yep.
And John got so mad that he threw a ball at him. Just threw a ball at him and screamed, "Called your hands!" And it was just so illogical because the guy never raises his hands to set.
He never uses them.
Right? So, and then Kenny gave him a warning, like, "You're lucky I like you. You're lucky you're my friend." And then he throws a ball at him again. And then three guys have to wrestle down Kenny, and now it's this conversation.
There's some energy on
but
those
the
courts.
but the crux of this conversation was this. And he's like, "Why don't you play in a tournament, Kenny?" And Kenny says, "Why don't you win one?" or something like that. And then John's like, "F you, I've been playing for 13 years. And he says, "Yeah, and you still suck." And when he said that, I took sides. I laughed. I took a side. 13 years. Because there was a level of truth to this. You walk around like you're this G, but you've been at this. You've been at this for quite some time. And he didn't suck. But I'm just saying, like, the worst thing, think about the worst thing you could say to someone in an argument. To me, arguments are a free game.
Yeah.
If you're mad at someone, you should be able to say something that's going to hurt their feelings the most. If someone has one leg or a peg leg, boy, you go after that, Yeah. If someone's short, I'll be like, fee, fi, fo, fum.
Well, one of my guilty pleasure TV shows is Bachelor, and they just had the women's tell all, and one of the girls that got kicked off on the night one was like saying something, and then this other girl that was on a little longer was, spouting back, and the girl who got kicked off night one goes, "Yeah, he kicked me off night one, but he got to know your personality and then sent you home." And I was like, that is freaking phenomenal.
Yes. Dude, there's a reason why they say you suck. I've earned it.
I've earned the right.
Yeah, but to quote 50 Cent, he has a song called Wankster. Say you a gangster, but you ain't never popped nothing. Say you a wankster, you ain't never bought nothing. Go to the dealership, but you never bought nothing. Been at this a long time, but you ain't got nothing. Damn, homie. In high school, you was the man, homie. What happened to you?
I never listened to those lyrics like that.
50 is oh no. Wow, he's not even like my top 10 list, but I'm always quoting him. Between him, Eminem, and Jay-Z. Yeah, that's a 3-horse race, Yeah. Kanye is awesome too.
Yeah.
Kanye is saying crazy stuff like, "I can't be with you and be with me too." I'm just like, wow.
The lyrics will blow your mind. I'm a huge fan of songwriters.
There's a song called Love Lockdown where he's like that. Yeah. He says, "I can't feel myself 'cause I gotta move. I can't be myself and be with you too. Wow. So keep your love locked down." Yeah, good song. Mm-hmm.
Jason's ready for karaoke.
He is.
Dude, well,
I don't stay up.
Did you
let's
go
start
last
by
night?
no, because I wanted to be awake for this and not look like the boogeyman smacked me around. Yeah, my girl's parents are in town, so I know I'm gonna get to sleep
met
in some
them.
mornings because the only person Braxton loves more than mom is grandma and grandpa. Yeah, it is.
awesome.
It is the great love relationship.
Oh yeah, my parents are coming. My parents are coming tonight.
Are they?
Yeah, they're watch Kate.
Are you gonna? You gonna pick them up or?
Les Mis at Redondo tonight and tomorrow night.
Yes. Doesn't Baranek have something Saturday night
I
at
can't
11:40?
go. Yeah. Oh, is it 11:40?
Yeah.
PM?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's his surf movie. I have.
Oh.
Good for Eric.
Is it at 11:40?
Look, I don't know, but
I don't know.
I'm a bit of a fanboy. Like, I'm a volleyball purist.
I like it.
And Ashley know what that means. That means you're more of a fan of the sport, regardless of who's playing it, so you don't follow a particular person. But with
Yep.
that being said, I got
Fun to
Theo,
watch.
Theo and Trevor, my 3 guys that I follow all the time. Theo and Trevor,
Okay.
and Thank you, volleyball, because now they're a team. They're playing together, so I got that 2-for-1 deal. And Eric Baranek, Yeah. So, and my 3 girls are TKN, Kristen Nelson Cloth, and they play together. And Chrissy Jones, who I don't even think is in the sport. Yeah, crazy, right? Can I share that story with you guys? Remember the short story I shared about Chrissy Jones, Atlantic City? I want to do that and then we're out here, okay? It's so, it wouldn't, I swear it's worth it. I wouldn't do that if it wasn't worth it. So I'm in Atlantic City. I'm calling court 1, right? And I'm calling her by myself. Cameron's on center court. She's got a guy named Boron, and it's great play-by-play caller. They're shooting back and forth. So Chrissy Jones is warming up on my court. She's playing with Muno, I think, Zana Muno. Yeah. And the guy, the director of public relations, Josh Glazebrook.
Yeah.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Josh Glazebrook.
Yeah.
A good guy, but I think honestly, I think a little bit in over his head when it comes to what's coming. So don't take that personally, Josh. That's just business. He comes up to me and he's like, "This is 45 seconds before the match starts," and he says, "From now on, Chrissy's going to be known by her new last name, by her husband's last name." So I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "What's the name?" He goes, "Shunderword." And I went,
"What? You want me to say
what?" And they're like, 30 seconds, Jason. And he goes, "Shunderword." And I'm like,
from Jones.
And I'm like,
This is the best
"Can
one,
you
yeah.
spell that?" He goes, Nope. So, first of all, the stencils, they don't even write it in a Shunderwood. They still have Jones. So every time I say Shunderwood or Shunderwood, I slap myself on the leg. And Josh is next to me, cracking up. I mean, I don't know if it was a rib or just a professional thing that we were trying to fix, but I had a really, really good time with him that weekend. I got to know Josh very, very well because I've seen him at the AVPs all the time. But just to see the work the guy put in, and just how much that happens behind the scenes that I don't know. So for me to say he's in over his head, that just shows I don't know. I'm just being a hater, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll just admit that. But Shunderwood. And it turns out it was SCHOONDEROURD. You can't even like put that in you guys lost it in the spelling.
I was lost at OO.
Yeah. And God bless you, Chrissy. God bless you, Chrissy Jones, Chrissy Shunderwood. I'm still a fan of you. I hope you come back. I hope your husband's, I understand his husband got injured in the field training exercise. He was a Marine. Yeah, I think he was doing he did like 2 tours in Afghanistan, came back in one piece and then hurt his neck in an FTX. But hope you're okay. I'm a fan. I hope you come back on the podcast. Because when she came on, I had a little fanboy in me. I had such a fanboy in me. I was telling jokes that we had to edit out. And all of my podcasts are unedited. That was the only time in 172 episodes I had to edit something out. Wow. And I'll tell you off camera what it was. But she's a good girl, and we couldn't be talking about that. So let's plug everybody as far as AG handle, as far as websites. People want to know more about Wendy Jones and Be Better Media. They want to know more about Ashely. They want to know more about what's going on with our new podcast. So Wendy, Ashely, you do the plugs, girl.
Oh, I just did that for our new show. So where did I put it though? Okay, so our new show is Undivided. We are only streaming that on the Be Better YouTube channel. I believe that handle is at Be Better Media. The number is 9038. But you could probably pull that up, Jason.
All right. As
far as myself, you can follow me on Instagram at ashley.a.clark.10. I know that's silly and annoying. TikTok, Ashely and C10, and as well as Twitter, Ashely and C10. You want me to hit yours too?
This is how thrilled I am with social media these days.
No, because your Instagram thing got jacked, right?
Yeah.
Our Instagram that we were working on last year got shut down, so we've recently turned Wendy Jones's personal account that was formerly at Faith in the Journey. It is now on Instagram and TikTok, BeBetterMedia.life.
Do you know how much of an asshole you got to be to mess with this woman's account?
That's what I'm saying. Like, we only put out great content that will help people in their lives.
And none of it was controversial.
None of it. Not mentioning COVID, not mentioning the pandemic, not mentioning any of the hot topics.
It's personal now, man. They mess with Wendy Jones, dude.
Yeah.
It's personal. And you had the following of a TikTok teenager. Like the
20,000
numbers?
followers.
Yeah, well, 20. The last time I saw was 20,000.
Whoever
It was
they is,
growing.
though, don't really like me, but I don't really care either.
You had the following of a teen. You can do things because you have X amount of views that I can't. Like, I think you need to have 1,000 followers or more to do like an extended live thing or whatever and this and that. So
Yeah, but there's still
Yeah.
the man behind the curtain is still running it all, so it's got a Wizard of Oz thing going on.
maybe I got some men behind the curtain too. So let's talk about that when this is over. I got all right. That's all I got. So listen, Wendy Jones and Ashely might like you, but I don't like any of you guys. In fact, I can't stand any of you. So I'm out of here. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your desktop, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on, did I say the desktop again? Who runs the world? Old school, baby. Old school. From my homie Wendy Jones. For Ashely Clark, I'm Jason DeBeas. This is episode 172 of the Option Podcast. I'm going to hit my music and we are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionVB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.